You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1268. 1268 Chapter 298, Old Zhu, 5. That makes sense. Old Zhao sure knows how to talk. Zhu Tiandao chuckled and said, "That's right. It's such a simple matter. If you're in the wrong, just bear with it. Why do you have to be so thick-skinned and shameless? Give me a definite answer. How long will it take for the 8 great clans to settle the 6-winged divine sect?" The great Han King said 3 months. Before the elder could finish, Zhu Tiandao said indifferently, "That's too useless. The great Han King gave us 3 months as a favor, but you guys really want to finish it in 3 months? The elder from the Zhao family was silent for a while. He sighed, 1 month. Each of the 8 great clans will send out a Sun-Moon Realm expert. 8 Sun-Moon Realm experts will patrol the world. Within a month, they will find the enemy's nest and kill their higher-ups. If they can't do it, the 8 great clans will give the world an explanation. That's more like it." Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, "Feng Qi and Qin Yong's lives must be preserved. I will get Old Ho to patrol with us. Don't play dirty with me. There are some fellows. Don't look, I'm talking about you. Old Yuan Gui, don't follow me with those nonsense. If you want to mess with the Xia family, you should do it. If Qin Yong and Feng Qi have anything to do with the Xia family, I can't be bothered with them. The main point is that they are the martial uncles of the great Ming Mansion's money tree, so I have to take care of them. Now that the 2 of them are dead and the money tree has run away, the 8 families of yours will compensate me with 30 million merit points. I won't care about this anymore." Then, without giving the other party a chance to speak, he laughed and said, "It's settled then. A family of 30 million. It's still alright. 200 to 300 million merit points, you guys can do whatever you want." The great Han King and the Silkworm Exterminating King did not say anything. At this moment, someone stood up and said in a deep voice, "Since we're talking about this, let's talk about Suyu. I already know about this matter. Suyu's heavenly aperture point has cast his body, welcoming the change of the ancient human emperor's rules." Ha ha ha. Zhu Tiandao suddenly laughed so hard that he could not hold back his laughter. "Damn, you idiots, you have the same brain as the Myriad Clan cult." Everyone was stunned. Zhu Tiandao laughed so hard that he fell back. "You don't think that's true, do you?" He clutched his chest and laughed happily. "Do you really think that the sun and moon of the Myriad Clan sect would be so easily ambushed by us? In the Tiandu prefecture? So stupid that they all ran away all of a sudden. They even cast their bodies in the heavenly cycle, and the human emperor gave them blessings. Where are your brains?" Zhu Tiandao laughed out loud, and in the next moment, he shouted, "Men!" Soon, a mountain and sea realm expert entered. "Show everyone what it means to bait a fool, find a brother and give him some blessings." Yes. This Iron Cavalry Guard expert didn't say much, and soon, he brought a Sky Realm expert in. "You, cast the body now." Zhu Tiandao said with a smile, "Let a bunch of fools see if Daming Manor's technique is awesome or not." This person did not say a word and quickly began casting his body. Soaring Sky could cast his body many times. At this moment, he had just cast his body casting technique for a while when a storm arose. In the blink of an eye, a few clouds floated in from outside. In the next moment, the clouds changed. "Cast your body every day, send blessings every day." Large characters hung in the air. Heaven Yuan Qi exploded. In the next moment, the large characters formed by the clouds landed on the person's body. The cavalryman leaped into the air, his face beaming with joy as he quickly devoured the Heaven Yuan Qi. In the blink of an eye, a golden light appeared on his body. As for the others, they were all dumbfounded by what they saw. Even Manager Hu and the others who had come along widened their eyes. F***ck. Fake. The Great Han King and Silkworm Exterminating King were also slightly stunned. They had also received the news. But now, it was fake. Made by themselves. Was this fooling everyone in the world? The Great Han King looked at Zhu Tiandao thoughtfully. After a long while, he said indifferently, "Your Zhu family has quite a bit of heaven yuan qi. You're really willing to part with it?" Zhu Tiandao laughed and said, "You can't catch a wolf if you can't bear to part with a child. It's just a bit of heavenly yuan qi. Isn't it worth it to have 9 suns and moons?" Ha ha ha. Zhu Tiandao laughed brilliantly. "In the end, I thought that after killing those people, someone would be able to see through it. Who knew that? In these 2 great holy lands, there would be a fool who would actually come forward and ask. I just want to say, don't lose your brain while cultivating. If it wasn't for the fact that we were prepared, would we have allowed Su Yu to publicly cast his body? I thought that even a smart person would be able to see through it. In the end, I'm dying of laughter." He laughed loudly once again. Many people had strange expressions on their faces. F***cku, who knew that it was fake. The commotion was huge. Furthermore, they did not see it at the scene. However, according to the intelligence, the commotion was so huge that it was frightening. Be good, the human emperor gave his blessings, cast his body in the heavenly cycle, and 5-colored heavenly punishment. In the end, it was fake. F***ck. Where did the Daming Mansion get this heaven origin chi? Could it be that the heaven origin fruits from all these years were useless? The person who had spoken earlier also had an ugly expression on his face. He had been humiliated. However, he had been humiliated to the point that he had nothing to say. Fake. F***ck. He had to see it for himself in the future. This was too much of a scam. How could the Daming Mansion be *** have so many tricks up his sleeve? Zhu Tiandao laughed and said, "Everyone, don't leak it out, cough cough. Actually, if we do it again next time, we probably won't be able to catch the sun and moon of the Myriad Clan cult. Actually, I was planning to get a few more heavenly blessings. I've already thought it through. Next time, I'll trample over Ling Yun, and the human emperor will congratulate me. Or, the mountains and seas will converge, and all worlds will come to pay their respects." He laughed and said, "I wonder if we can scam them again next time." In the main hall, it was extremely quiet. "Damn it, one moment you said that Daming Manor was almost destroyed, the next moment you said that you fished it yourself. Do you really think everyone is a fool?" You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1269. 1269 Chapter 298, Old Zhu, 6. How infuriating. Then Su Yu's Zhou Tian acupoint. Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, "That's true." He opened 360 acupoints, it seems to be 350 or so. I didn't ask about the specifics, but whatever. So many openings might not necessarily be a good thing. As for the location of the openings, you can just buy it with money. It's not a big deal. Whose genius wants to open 300 or so openings? It's not like there's no one who can help it. We won't stop you from opening them. His words were simple and easy. It was a small matter. What everyone cared about was the change in the rules. Now that it had been proven that they were all fake and created, it didn't matter how many tricks they opened. If you had the ability, you could open them yourself. As for Manager Hu and the others, they were all doubting their lives at this moment. Holy shit. Fake. Up until now, they still hadn't regained their senses. A group of people had been fooled. But, That faint sense of oppression at that time was really scary, and it seemed very real. Why was it fake? The Daming Manor's forgery technology had already reached such a stage. The few of them were extremely depressed. The Darkhan King was also speechless. The Silkworm Exterminating King said unhappily, "If it's fake, then it's fake. That's Suyu, creating it once is enough. There aren't many Heaven Origin fruits to begin with, so why can't you create some fake Heaven Origin Chi for this demonstration? To waste so much Heaven Yuan Chi in order to soar into the sky and cast it. He's not a son of a man." With that, he scolded again. "In the past, your big brother didn't have any Heaven Yuan fruits and could only use the blood essence of gods and demons to awaken his Yuan. He died a miserable death. But now, you unfilial son, wasting the Heaven Yuan fruits is a heinous crime." Zhu Tiandao was speechless. He could only say, "Suyu said that he has a chance to find the Yuan Shan aperture. I thought about it and found that he won't use the Heaven Yuan fruits to build his foundation in the future. It doesn't matter to waste some." Everyone was tired. Silkworm King shouted, "Have you found the immortal soul aperture now?" "Not yet." "Since you don't have it, do you believe him?" "Of course." Zhu Tiandao explained, "He is very powerful. The joint aperture technique, immortal soul formula, soul-devouring formula, pure Yuan formula, and the immortal soul aperture technique that will be promoted next are all top-tier cultivation techniques. They are all treasures. If he said that there is hope in the next few years, how can I not believe him? It was precisely because I believed him that I wasted the Heaven Origin fruit. Isn't it powerful? Suyu." The great Han King muttered to himself, "I've read both the Primordial Spirit Scripture and the Xuanwu Joint Aperture Technique. They're both very good cultivation techniques." Zhu Tiandao said with a smile, "Even the great Han King thinks that they're not bad, right? In the end. There's no indication at all. Sigh, it hurts my heart. In the past, I even managed to get 2 chances to cast my body in the trashy Wanwen Jing. The inventor was directly promoted to an advanced researcher. Now. Forget about it. The quest realm is like this now. Suyu is just a small fry. There's no need to care too much about him. It's fine. Daming Manor will compensate him." The Darkhan King glanced at him, then looked at the 8 great clans, the clan heads of the 8 great clans. Someone said in a deep voice, "The cultivation method is still in the promotion stage, so we haven't seen any results yet. We are already discussing the reward." On the other side, Silkworm Extermination King suddenly smiled and said, "Don't go through so much trouble. Suyu, right? The War God Hall rewarded him with a chance to cast his body and another chance to come to the War God Hall to study. Oh right, open the War God Hall to him. In addition, he can enter the War God Academy to study and further his studies for a period of 10 years. Zhu Tiandao's face turned black. "Screw you. Picking peaches. Stop dreaming. I was just saying that." However, he quickly said, "Then, thank you, King of Silkworm Extermination. If Suyu is unable to come, I hope that he can arrange for someone else to replace him. Some researchers don't care about these things themselves, but they hope that their families can enjoy them. I'll see if Suyu's father needs." It was that simple. He wouldn't come in person. Who knew if he would be able to return if he came? Why don't I give his father to the War God Hall? It was quite impressive. Opening 36 apertures to the 10,000 stone realm was actually not bad. Don't look down on it. Zhu Tiandao was happy in his heart. This idea of mine is good. Even if Suyu knew about it, he would have to thank himself. His father has been sent to the War God Hall. Isn't this the safest place in the world? This was the safest place in the world. Whoever came to the War God Hall to kill people, that invincible state would really erupt. If they were to kill their way to their nest, that would be terrible. King of Silkworm Extermination was speechless. F*CKU. This kid from the old Zhu family, the older he got, the less cute he became. How cute he was when he was young. He was so chubby. When I was young, I even pinched little sparrows. Now it's not fun at all. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1270. 1270 Chapter 299 My father said, 1. In the main hall, Zhu Tiandao easily took care of everything. If you don't have any desires, you'll be tough. I'm not asking you, what can you do to me? At this moment, the great Han King seemed to have thought of something and slowly said, that Su Yu, did he control a relic? Zhu Tiandao frowned. Even Woody was targeted. The next moment, the great Han King smiled lightly and said, Tiandao, don't think too much. I'm just reminding you that he's a little too ostentatious. Now, everyone in the world probably knows that he controlled an invincible relic, so that he doesn't have to interact with Xia Longwu. As soon as these words were said, manager whose expression changed slightly. Zhu Tiandao also seemed to be deep in thought and nodded. That's right. The great Han King sighed and said, actually, even if we don't interact with him, the more famous he is, the more troublesome it will be. If the relic can be verified, then, for many people, some of the arrangements will be destroyed. He looked around and said indifferently, Xia Longwu, I know that many people are waiting. They are waiting for him to go to the celestial battlefield and kill an invincible opponent. However, don't make a fuss anymore. There is no need to make a fuss. As for Su Yu, he looked at the crowd again and his voice was a little indifferent, even if we kill him, it won't be of much use. If he had already told someone about the location of the ruins, such as Xia Longwu or Zhu Tiandao, what's the use of killing him? What can be stopped? Some people's expressions changed. Some people found it hard to believe. The old man who had spoken earlier said directly, the great Han King, are you saying that someone wants to kill Su Yu and not give him the chance to pass the ruins to others so that others can verify his Dao? He didn't know Su Yu. However, after hearing him a few times, he roughly understood something. A peerless genius of the human race seemed to have inherited the invincible ruins. Now, someone wanted to kill him. As for the purpose, it was very simple. They did not give Xia Longwu a chance to secretly attain Dao. Everyone needed Xia Longwu to directly attain Dao and attain Dao in the heavenly battlefield. The great Han King said calmly, perhaps. The 10,000 races probably had the same purpose, so more and more actions were being taken against Su Yu. This young man. I can't judge right or wrong. He made his cultivation method public and killed his enemies, which was beneficial to the human race. However, he kept making some cultivation methods public, revealing that he had a relic in his hands, which made many people fearful. After the great Han King finished speaking, he paused and said, the 10,000 races will not die from killing him. As for us, there's not much we can do. In the human realm, we can try our best to protect him, or let him come to the search realm. I'll protect him. Zhu Tiandao was about to say something, the great Han King said indifferently, Tiandao, there are some things that you understand. If he doesn't come to the search realm, it's not good for us to keep an eye on that place. Everyone has something to do. It's impossible to let eternity protect a young man forever. Zhu Tiandao nodded and thought for a moment, what the great Han King said is right. However, in my damning manner, safety is still guaranteed. As for the ruins, Zhu Tiandao thought for a moment and said, actually, they were taken away by Xia Longwu long ago. If we don't make it public and everyone wants to kill him, we can just kill Xia Longwu directly. As for killing the embryo, we're not afraid of it anyway. Manager who rolled his eyes crazily. Damn it, be a human. You have the nerve to say these words. Zhu Tiandao didn't care. To put it bluntly, if Xia Longwu didn't step out of the human realm, who could kill him? Once he stepped out of the human realm, everyone would want to kill him. What's the difference? That killer embryo probably didn't care about these things. He even hoped that there would be an invincible person to kill him in secret. Perhaps he could even lure an invincible person out to kill him. At this point, Zhu Tiandao continued, even if I don't tell Xia Longwu now, when I go back, I'll get Su Yu to tell him where the Xia Longwu remains are. I've already said it. If you want to stop Xia Longwu from attaining Dao, then go and find trouble with him. The moment these words were said, someone said faintly, Manor-head Zhu, it's fine if we misspoke once. It's not that we want to stop Manor-head Xia, but it's the myriad clans. Manor-head, time and time again, do you really want to set us up against Manor-head Xia? Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, I don't have that intention. Don't misunderstand. I don't have that intention, it has nothing to do with me anyway. At this point, he smiled again and said, that fellow, Xia Longwu, killed an embryo. He has a bad temper. I think the failure rate of the Dao attainment is as high as 90%. Now, there's still a 10% chance. Everyone, stop tormenting him. If you really push him too far, do you really think that he has no choice but to attain the Dao? If he's pushed too far, he might as well not do the Dao. All of a sudden, all his plans are for naught, right? He chuckled and said, some people still hope that this opportunity will bring them some benefits. If you push him too far now, or if you end up going to the small world to do the Dao, then you're done for. Zhu Tiandao laughed and said, Qin Town, the Zhou brothers, the Yuan family's eldest brother, the Lu family's eldest brother. Many people are waiting for this opportunity. This is probably only one time. Stop messing around. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to hold myself back. Not to mention that Xia Longwu killed an embryo. Everyone, take good care of your own people. Some people have also thought things through. Don't pay for the mistakes of others. If you really push that embryo to the limit, everyone will just wait and see when the time comes. Silence. The great Han King glanced at Zhu Tiandao, smiled, and said, then that's it. As for the Xia family. He looked at Chief Hu and said with a faint smile, Little Hu, do you have anything to say? Chief Hu said with a smile, no, the manor head and the marquis have nothing to say. We have to take the overall situation into consideration. The great Han King did not say anything. On the other side, the silkworm exterminating king did not say anything either. It would be more terrifying if he had nothing to say. People like Zhu Tiandao argued and argued endlessly. He still hoped to survive in the human realm. There were some people who did not say anything. Just because he was holding it in now did not mean that he would hold it in forever. In the end, there might be big trouble. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1271. 1271 Chapter 299 My father said, 2. The Xia family had nothing to say. Even the great Xia king had not said much recently in the heavenly battlefield. Xia Long's martial attainment had already become the Xia family's obsession. If he succeeded or failed, there might be a huge mess. The great Han King also had a headache. Actually, if Chief Hu had spoken, he could have ordered Yuan Qingdong of the Yuan family to leave the great Xia residence at this moment, but in the end, he did not. The Xia family had no objections. The more they had no objections, the more troublesome it would be. Zhu Tiandao saw the situation and didn't say anything else. It had nothing to do with him, so he didn't care. On the Xia family's side, this attitude made people feel a little cold. Xia Longwu didn't have any objections to killing the embryo this time. Were you afraid? On the 8 great family side, the family heads were also silent. The great Han King didn't mention this matter anymore. He sighed in his heart and quickly said, since that's the case, the crisis in the Great Ming Manor has been resolved, right? Tiandao, do you have anything else to say? Zhu Tiandao nodded. The last thing is not a big matter. It can be considered a private matter. There are some invincible manuscripts in the Quest realm. Can you give some to Suyu? He laughed and said, it's just a small matter. A normal manuscript will do. The rewards for the Quest realm, including the opportunity to cast one's body, were provided to Suyu by the Daming Prefecture. There was no need to trouble everyone to cut their own flesh. Out of the 8 great clans, each clan will give 1 invincible manuscript. In addition, they will be rewarded with 30 to 50 manuscripts. These things are not worth much. It's fine to just casually write about the invincible realm. Silence. Your face is really big. The great Han King was silent for a moment. Among the 8 great clans, one of the clan leaders said in a deep voice, the invincible manuscript is not to be spread out. The invincible manuscript contains some invincible insights. This thing was normally not to be spread out. Zhu Tiandao thought for a moment and nodded, all right then. The primordial spirit scripture is much stronger than the Wanwen Jing. The Wanwen Jing can be exchanged for 2 chances to cast one's body. The primordial spirit scripture should be exchanged for at least 4 times, right? In the next 4 years, our Daming Manor will have 1 person cast a body every year. Oh right, the Daming Manor will also exchange 50 years for 1 chance. 5 times is fine. For the next 5 years, the Daming Manor will have to cast a body. Is this okay? Zhu Tiandao yawned and said, then it's settled. Don't tell me that the primordial spirit scripture is inferior to the Wanwen Jing. If that's the case, then it would be meaningless. All the civilized masters in the world would be treated as fools. 5 years, all of them will belong to our Zhu family. The head of the Yuan family frowned slightly and said, is there 5 people in Daming Manor who need to cast their bodies? This was the treatment of a top-notch genius. Zhu Tiandao nodded. My grandchildren already have 2 needs. There are too many geniuses in Daming Manor. Not to mention 5, even 500 wouldn't be enough. He smiled and said, they are all top-notch geniuses. Don't worry about that. Once they succeed in casting their bodies, 1 person will be able to fight against 5 Huangtang Qin Fang. As for not being able to fight, then it would be better if they could not fight. Everyone was speechless. The great Han King smiled and said, I can give you a copy of my manuscript. As for the others. He looked at the family heads of the 8 great families. Should he give the opportunity to cast their bodies for 5 consecutive years to the Zhu family or give them the manuscript? It was his choice. Zhu Tiandao was also leisurely and carefree. He was not in a hurry at all. He could give it to anyone. Any one of them would do. The Yuan family head was still a little unwilling and said once again, we can give other rewards, including the Heaven Origin Fruit. Oh, Heaven Origin Fruit. Give 100. Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, this is also fine. Otherwise, there's no use. You all saw that I used up more than 10 Heaven Origin Fruits just now. We don't lack this. To tell you the truth, my Daming Manor has a lot of these things. A few years ago, my father secretly cut down a Heaven Origin tree from the Divine Realm. Don't you all know? Get lost. Who was he trying to fool? Zhu Tiandao was impatient, don't drag it out. If you drag it out any longer, the primordial spirit scripture won't be passed on. The prices of the other great prefectures will double. It's all the good work of the 8 great clans. There's no reward for creating a cultivation technique, so why are you still promoting it? Do you really think you care about that little bit of money? He was a little impatient. On the other side, the Silkworm Exterminating King smiled and said, Tiandao, why don't you license the primordial spirit scripture to the War God Hall? I guarantee that you guys will receive sufficient benefits. Zhu Tiandao said with a smile, forget it. The primordial spirit scripture has been released. If the effects are good, the Silkworm King hopes that the War God Hall will be able to urge them a little. There won't be any benefits from the joint aperture technique. The Silkworm King did not mind and said casually, didn't we just give it to them? All right then. Zhu Tiandao could not be bothered to talk about this anymore. He got up and walked down the throne, he smiled and said, that's it then. From this year onwards, I will arrange for people to lock down the Heavenly Yuan realm. After all, the Heavenly Yuan fruit is picked once every 9 years. It was only picked last year. It shouldn't be a problem to lock it down for 5 years. At this moment, one of the 8 family heads sighed and said, we can give one to each family. Together with the Great Han King's book, we can provide 9 invincible manuscripts for Su Yu. Let's gather the whole thing. Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, the 8 families have paid for it, and the public treasury has paid for 1 copy, so we can gather 10 copies. It's not a big deal. A bunch of big shots like us don't need to cause a ruckus like a wet market over this small matter. Not a big deal. Were the invincible manuscripts really worthless? They couldn't be bothered to argue with him, so they tacitly agreed and didn't say anything else. 10 invincible manuscripts. This was the reward for the primordial spirit scripture. If they did not want it, then naturally no one would give it to them. If they wanted it, then they had to give it to them. Especially at this time. The Great Han King and Silkworm Exterminating King were both watching. The people from the War God Hall were also watching. Actually, the 8 great clans were also feeling aggrieved. Something had happened in the Daming Manor, and Zhu Tiandao had filed a lawsuit against them. The Daming Manor was under the jurisdiction of the Chiu Soa realm, so naturally, it was their bad luck. When something had happened at the Great Xia Manor, the Xia family had not come to the War God Hall to file a complaint. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1272. 1272 Chapter 299 My father said, 3. In the end, the trouble was all theirs. Zhu Tiandao, villain. Shameless. Zhu Tiandao didn't care at all and smiled, then each family can take it out now. I'll bring it back at the same time to prevent everyone from sending it over. The matter has been resolved satisfactorily and everyone is fine. I told you, it's a small matter, there's no need to make a fuss. Who made a fuss? Everyone was speechless. Today, you've said everything by yourself. The family heads didn't say anything else. They all took out a manuscript and flew toward Zhu Tiandao. In the hall, some of the mountains and seas were envious. The Great Han King smiled and threw a manuscript over. Zhu Tiandao patted his forehead as if he had thought of something. He turned around and smiled, Lord Silkworm Exterminating King, so you can be considered half your student. Can you write a copy of Time and bring it back to me? Silkworm Exterminating King was slightly startled. Was it really him? At this moment, in the Great Hall, the sun, moon, mountains, and seas on both sides of the Great Hall were all a little surprised. Time. The Great Han King was also a little surprised. He looked at Silkworm Exterminating King. A cheap disciple. Zhu Tiandao chuckled, half of my student is also a student. Of course, if Silkworm Exterminating King isn't interested in acknowledging this disciple, it's fine. That Su Yu is also an arrogant person, so he might not be willing, cough cough, sorry, I said it wrong. Silkworm Exterminating King, don't mind it. King Silkworm Extermination laughed and said playfully, little fatty. The Great Hall fell silent for a moment. Zhu Tiandao's face twitched, and King Silkworm Extermination coughed lightly. It was a slip of the tongue. An official meeting wasn't in private. It wasn't appropriate for a manor head to call him that, but it didn't matter in private. King Silkworm Extermination also knew that it was a slip of the tongue, so he instantly dropped the topic. He smiled and said, "So you inherited time. This is interesting. Forget it, then I'll give him a book of enlightenment. It's also a supplement to what I've learned over the years. I hope he won't be humiliated by this cultivation technique of mine." With that, he tossed out a book. Zhu Tiandao took it and didn't bother with the matter of the little fatty anymore. If it wasn't for the fact that he wasn't as strong as you, he would have immediately told you that you were pulled out from somewhere. Silkworm Extermination King seemed to have sensed something and looked at him with a faint smile. Zhu Tiandao felt a little guilty and didn't look at him anymore. It was time to run. He had already done what he needed to do. If he didn't run, what was he still doing here? The harvest this time wasn't small at all. In the end, he even pulled out a tiger flag. Su Yu, Silkworm Extermination King's disciple, and Daming King were also protecting him. All of a sudden, there were two invincible ones. Everyone had to think carefully. As for whether the Silkworm Exterminating King would acknowledge them or not, that was his business. How did you know that he wouldn't acknowledge them? The harvest was huge. He was going to take his leave. Just as he was about to take his leave, the great Han King said indifferently, "I've given you the things and made a promise. It's about time for the ant infestation in the Dual Saint Mansions to stop. Stop, stop, stop. We're going to the back to rest for a few days. We're not here to deal with this bullshit. The front isn't as peaceful as you think. The ancestors of the primitive god race and the primitive demon race are showing signs of coming out of seclusion. Are you satisfied only if you want to make the human realm discordant?" Hearing this, the Silkworm Extermination King said lightly, "That's true. It's not just them. The other races, eternal, have also been stirring up trouble recently. Civilized teachers, stop. We're easy to talk to, but some people aren't easy to talk to. This has really provoked the great Qin King back. Everyone, we're concerned about the feelings of some old friends, so we can't say or do anything. That, you should think it over carefully. On the battlefield, it's not the first time you've killed your own sun and moon with one slap. We are good people, so we have a lot to worry about. Some of us are not. Stop messing around, if you really provoke the great Qin King to come back from the battlefield. I don't care if you are an invincible descendant, if you kill him, so be it. But if he comes back, it will be a shocking event." Hearing this, people were shocked again. Zhu Tiandao also grinned. Just as he smiled, the Silkworm Exterminating King said lightly, "If you really come back and see that the Dual Saint Manors are infested with ants, it won't be easy to talk to you." Silence. Zhu Tiandao felt awkward. He was also a little afraid of the great Qin King. In reality, there were not many people who were not afraid. The great Qin King could not unify the world and suppress all invincibility. However, suppressing him was enough. If you angered him, your invincibility might not even dare to stand up for you. Understood. Our Daming Manor will deal with the ant infestation as soon as possible. Zhu Tiandao laughed and said, "Very soon." After the matter was settled, the Daming Manor still had some trouble to deal with. The losses this time were too heavy, so I have to go back and preside over the reconstruction of the Daming Manor. My lords, my colleagues, I will take my leave now. After saying this, he turned around and left. I won't play with you anymore. After he quickly ran away, the Silkworm Exterminating King smiled and said, "This fellow, Little Song, how are the losses of the Daming Manor?" The sun and moon of the Great Song Mansion, who had come with Zhu Tiandao, were also preparing to run away. When they heard this, they felt a little awkward. "You don't know. I thought someone had already sent a message." However, he didn't dare not reply to Invincible's question. He said awkwardly, "That, the losses, are quite great. Quite great. It's the one that broke through a teleportation door, and then, 9 people died. Sun and Moon. Silkworm Extermination King was slightly startled. The one that died was the Sun and Moon. No, cough cough, it's the most powerful one among the commoners. It reached 10,000 stones. The entire hall was frighteningly silent. The experts on both sides were frighteningly silent. 9 people had died. Daming Manor was about to be destroyed. Was he going to go back and rebuild Daming Manor? At this moment, Zhu Tiandao shouted from outside, 30,000 strong men, it's up to you. Follow me back to Daming Manor and defend it. Quick, hurry. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1273. 1273 Chapter 299 My father said, 4. Hurry up. In the main hall, someone couldn't help but say in a low voice, are we really going to send the 30,000 strong people to the Great Ming Mansion? F***CK. 9 people died. You said that the Great Ming Mansion was filled with danger and was about to be destroyed. Although they knew that Zhu Tiandao was spouting nonsense, after thinking about it, they had killed 9 suns and moons and more than 10 mountains and seas. It was normal for one of the suns and moons to die. The Song family said that 9 suns and moons had died. They also thought that experts had died, but in the end, you told me that the dead were all commoners, the strongest 10,000 stone realm. Silence. The next moment, the great Han King stood up and walked down the platform. He said indifferently, disperse. Also, I hope that someone will listen to my words. After all, I am not the ruler of the Quest realm. There are some things that I don't want to get involved in, but, time and time again, I cause trouble while I am in seclusion. When I come out, don't blame me for not remembering our old friendship. After saying that, a figure flashed and disappeared from where he was. As for the king of Silkworm Extermination, he laughed and said, it's really chaotic. I can't be bothered with you guys. Little Hu, bring 50,000 strongmen back to the Great Xia Manor later. Don't forget that the resources of the War God Hall have been a little tight recently. It just so happens that you can take them back and raise them. After saying that, he also disappeared in an instant, and the War God Hall also disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Manager whose expression changed again and again. Should I bring it along? Just as he was thinking about it, the Silkworm Exterminating King's voice sounded again, not everyone can use Lux warriors. Since the great Han King said that only 9 suns and moons can be killed, then that's how it is. Don't act recklessly in private, or you'll lose your sense of propriety. He had completely left. As for Manager Hu, his face was purple. 50,000 Lux warriors, the consumption of more than 10 million merit points a year, I feel that I'm finished. What the Great Xia Manor is trying to say is to reduce the number of wars. 50,000 Hercules, don't tell me they're all going out to fight against the religion of the 10,000 races. Otherwise, they'll just be idlers. But if they're going to fight against the religion of the 10,000 races, what are the Dragon Martial Guards doing? Hu Tiandao's face was gloomy. My mouth is cheap. This time, when I return, I'm afraid I'll have to spend a lot of blood. Outside, Zhu Tiandao didn't care about that. He instantly gathered 30,000 Hercules. These strongmen were all in the Sky Realm. Of course, among the 30,000, there were a few in the Lingyun Realm and 3 experts who had just entered the Mountain and Sea Realm. They weren't weak, but they weren't strong enough. The main thing was that their potential was really limited. Most of them were trained with special medicinal herbs, pills, and special methods. Zhu Tiandao didn't care about that. The 30,000 people were all in the sky. Even if they were very weak, if they really fought, it wouldn't be a problem for them to beat the elite core of the Wanchur realm. It wouldn't be a problem for them to spend money to support people. Set off and return to the mansion. Zhu Tiandao shouted as the golden dragon rose into the sky. He turned around and saw that the two halls had separated. Invincible had already left. He smiled and suddenly pointed his middle finger at some of the people who had just walked out of the hall. His lips moved. If you continue to cause trouble in my damning mansion, I'll torture all of you to death later. The expressions of those experts who had just walked out changed slightly. Zhu Tiandao laughed out loud. Give my regards to old he for me. It's fine if his leg is broken. The next time you come to the Daming Prefecture, I'll give him a welcoming reception. The Daming Civilization Academy still lacks a deputy prefect. Anyone can come and welcome you at any time. Ha ha ha. With a loud laugh, the golden dragon soared into the sky. I'm so happy today. I'm so happy today. 9th level of the sun and moon, great. How lonely it is to be invincible. What a pity that Xia Longwu has to prove his invincible Dao. If it were me, I would kill him until I piss my pants. Zhu Tiandao's laughter, singing, and boastful voices kept coming. I'm invincible if I don't prove my Dao. No one can control me. I'll kill all of you first if you can control me. In the main hall, an old man smiled and said with emotion, since when did not being invincible become capital? Sigh. What a pity. At this moment, outside the main hall, under the 99th step, a middle-aged fat man was building a house. When he saw someone looking at him, he raised his head, bared his teeth, and laughed foolishly. My father said that we should build a house here and beat the rising dragon drum if we have anything to do. Everyone, please take care of me in the future. I plan to plant some vegetables and fruits in this small field. If everyone likes it, you can come and eat it together. Outside the Chiu Soa realm, under Chiu Soa Palace, at the entrance of the sacred land, his Zhu family had to guard the rising dragon drum here and also farm the land. Someone couldn't hold it in any longer and cursed in a low voice, what a disgrace to the cultured. At the bottom of the stairs, Zhu Tiandao's eldest son bared his teeth and laughed foolishly. My grandfather used to farm the land and he wasn't cultured either. I'll help Sir scold him. When he comes back, I'll scold him for being a disgrace to the cultured. This kind of person, to be a great wise king, is simply a disgrace. F***ck. Everyone cursed silently. He was like a rolling blade of meat. The old Zhu family were all not good people. Zhu Tiandao's eldest son did not give up. He smiled and said, "Oh right, my father said that I might be stationed in the search realm in the future. If I'm stationed here permanently, my lineage will have to take root here. Everyone, discuss which piece of land will be given to me. Also, let's see what kind of position I can take. If it's not possible, I'll be responsible for guarding the rising dragon drum. Also, the 8 families will be discussing matters. It should become the 9 families. Since my Zhu family is here, at least we have a position." This middle-aged fatty. He nagged, there are still 270,000 strongmen in the quest realm. If I become one of the leaders of the 9 great clans, I can mobilize 30,000 people. You have to arrange it for me later. Oh right, if I become the leader of the quest realm, I can get an extra Tian Yuan fruit every 9 years. You have to give this to me. My lineage is too miserable. My father didn't give me much starting capital. 30,000 strongmen have nothing to do. Arrange for me to come over and farm. The people depend on food for their livelihood. Farming can also make them rich. The middle-aged fatty smiled brightly as if he was calculating how much he could gain from farming with 30,000 people. On the steps, Sun and Moon frowned slightly and said, "Zhu Guangshan, are you serious or are you joking?" The fatty raised his head, he chuckled and said, "I'm not joking. Of course I'm serious. The Zhu family has to participate. Have to participate. Have to fight for power and benefits. My father also said that I'm a troublemaker. In the future, when you have meetings and make decisions, you have to call me. If you don't call me, I'll beat the rising dragon drum. I have to know all the decisions and decisions. If you don't tell me, I'll also beat the rising dragon drum. My father also said that some people don't want to be treated with respect. They think that the Zhu family is easy to bully and have to be slapped in the face every day. My father also said that if a person is kind, he will be bullied. If a horse is kind, he will be ridden by others. My father also said that the Zhu family is not a cultured person. At the critical moment, they will use their knives to f*ck their grandfathers. Don't be afraid. If we win, we will eat meat. If we lose, my grandfather will take us away. My father also said that what 8 great families and 9 great families. Who cares about their grandfathers? If our Zhu family is full, that's enough. If we are not full, we will beat up our weapons and become hostile. My father also said that we can't be too shameless. Shameless people don't have a good ending. We have to be shameless. Face is a bastard. It's useless to have him. If he's shameless and doesn't prove his Tao, then we can beat up whoever we want. My father also said that my uncle died well. If he doesn't die and wants to prove his Tao, then the Zhu family has to pretend to be a grandson. My father. From all directions, the experts were all stunned. Daming manner, rolling knife meat, which bastard went to provoke daming manner? To have strength, status, and status, how shameless could they be to provoke them? They must be crazy. Below the steps, Zhu Guang was humming a little tune as he continued to build his house. He was leisurely singing a little tune. Beside the rising dragon drum, the faces of the mountain and sea guards were stiff. In the future, are you really here? In the future, are we really neighbors? I'm not doing this job anymore. They're filled with grief and indignation. They can't do it anymore. They'll die of anger. On the stairs, the heads of the 8 great families left silently. They had no intention of provoking the Zhu family. The last time old he took office, it was just a random test. Who knew that he would poke a hornet's nest? This time, they couldn't even get rid of this dog skin plaster. He had a splitting headache. However, he had no way to refuse. His Zhu family wanted to participate, and his eldest son's bloodline would take root here. In the future, he would really be in big trouble. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1274. 1274 Chapter 300 The Beginning of Peace, 1. Daming Manor. Civilization Academy. Listening Wave Pavilion Tea House. When Zhu Tiandao left, Su Yu and the others had also finished watching the big show. Each and every one of them looked like they had not finished yet. There were many people. At this moment, what everyone saw was the scene of Zhu Tiandao leaving and returning. Hu Xianqing waved his hand casually and closed the scene. He smiled and said, "I'm done watching. I'm just waiting for Manor Head to come back. This thing consumes a lot of energy. There's nothing to see on the way. What a waste." Su Yu nodded slightly and said with some regret, "Why can't I see Invincible's appearance clearly? The projection is an energy capture, projection, and transmission back. Invincible can't capture it." Hu Xianqing explained and said with a laugh, "You should be content. The 2 Invincible should have discovered that we were spying and ignored us. Otherwise, they wouldn't have seen anything." On the side, Niu Bendao also laughed. They definitely noticed us. They didn't bother with us. The Manor Head has achieved a complete victory this time. The 2 unrivaled heroes also have some intentions of righting the wrongs, but their attitude is still not obvious enough. Su Yu didn't care too much about what he said. He smiled and said, "It's still all right. The Manor Head has almost agreed to everything. I can also see that other than being a little vague when it comes to targeting that unrivaled hero, everything else is alright. With the Invincible making a move, the great Han King said that he would definitely investigate thoroughly next time. Next time, not this time. This was probably the only condition that Zhu Tiandao had not fulfilled. After making a few moves consecutively, the great Han King and the others were still unable to make up their minds. Instead, they wanted to stay until the next time. Niu Bendao nodded slightly and said, "Actually, this is normal. The great Han King is only the great Han King. He cannot represent the others and cannot give you any promises. Even if he is dissatisfied, unless he can convince the majority of the Invincible, there is nothing he can do." After saying that, he continued, "At least in terms of righteousness, it's now developing in a good direction. You heard what the great Han King said before. He defines it as a cancer, and it's no longer an ambiguous personal grudge. This is the great Han King's definition. He's currently in charge of the search state. In this way, it can also represent the definition given by the search state." He looked at Su Yu, he smiled and said, "This is actually a very good trend. You have to know that before this, even if there were people who guessed that this person existed, on the one hand, it would be hard to say. On the other hand, it would be hard to define what the other party's existence was. Traitor? Human traitors? Personal grudges?" Su Yu nodded slightly. "You mean, that fellow is now officially recognized as a cancer?" "Yes." Niu Baidao laughed, "This is the general trend. Originally, even if that person was discovered, there might be people who would fall in love with him and pull him aside. But now, when the other party is defined as a cancer, if he is discovered now and evidence is found, the great Han King and the others will take action. Some of the original neutral factions will also tend to clean up the cancer. This is the suppression of the general trend." Su Yu nodded again, he smiled and said, "I understand. I understand what you mean, Principal. Previously, the other party was invincible, and they were targeting us, who were not invincible. In the eyes of invincible, our value is not as good as the other party. But now, the great Han King and the others have tilted a little. It is indeed a good thing." Niu Bendao laughed and said, "It is good that you understand. It is not a matter of a day to deal with an invincible. This time, it can be considered a huge success. Otherwise, if you really find evidence to deal with an invincible, the other party may have friends who will stand out, show their faces, and be partial. However, when the other party is pushed to the opposite side of the human race, and everyone sees him as a cancer, a traitor, that is a victory." Su Yu understood and nodded. Niu Bidao had mentioned this to him before. Using the general trend to oppress others, eventually making those who opposed him become enemies in the eyes of the public. Obviously, he had already succeeded in the first step. On the side of Daming Manor, Zhu Tiandao's appearance, coupled with Su Yu's many sets of cultivation methods, had caused the great Han King to deviate a little. That was why he had said those words in the beginning. Su Yu did not hope for these unrivaled experts to do anything. However, if one day he really found out the other party's identity, when he wanted to kill the other party, those unrivaled experts would not come out to obstruct him. That was the key. Of course, he would forget about killing the unrivaled experts. On the side of the Xia family, the great Xia king had promised to act. On the side of the Zhu family, they would look back at the great Ming king's intentions. If these two were to make a move, unless the other party was on the same level as the great Zhou king, if the two second-in-command of the two great holy lands were to join forces, the other unrivaled experts would not be able to create any ripples. Su Yu did not think about that anymore. He was in a pretty good mood. Zhu Tiandao was indeed a troublemaker, he was an expert at arguing with reason. He did not see the situation on Zhu Guangshan's side, but it was enough. He had seen the situation in the hall. It was beyond his expectations. Su Yu was in a good mood and looked forward to it. He asked, "Head Prefect, will the 8 great clans deal with the 6-winged divine sect? Since they have agreed, they will naturally take action. Niu Baidao quickly said, it may not happen in a month. There will definitely be a result in 3 months. Of course, if the other party really runs away or goes into hiding, even the 8 great clans might not be able to catch him. There's nothing you can do about it. If a sun and moon goes into hiding, the human realm is too big. It will be very difficult for you to find the other party. Su Yu was helpless. His uncle master had been lost. Recently, even he could not be contacted. Forget it, I can only hope that Director Ho and the others can find him. There shouldn't be any problems, right? After making some calculations in his heart, everything seemed to be fine so far. After killing a batch of sun, moon, mountains, and seas, the religion of 10,000 races was probably going to go into hibernation and shrink. They didn't dare to come looking for trouble anymore. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1275. 1275 Chapter 300 At the Beginning of Peace, 2. As for the single divine prose faction, Su Yu could vaguely feel it. Perhaps the 8 great clans were supporting them, or some of them were supporting them. After Zhu Tiandao's ruckus this time, they had more or less restrained themselves. At the very least, the pressure within the human realm would dissipate by more than half at the current stage. The outside, if they didn't go to the heavenly battlefield, it should still be fine. He thought of the Dark Han King's words again and asked again, Man or head, can an invincible relic allow one to silently become invincible in the Tao? Yes. Su Yu seemed to be deep in thought and said, then after the Tao, this relic will be useless? More or less. Niu Baidao smiled and said, the Tao will absorb a large amount of energy. Under normal circumstances, an invincible relic will not be able to hold on and will eventually explode. Even if it doesn't completely explode, some of the law arrays will be destroyed and no one will be able to witness the Tao. Su Yu understood. So the great Han King said that the 10,000 races will target me and let me have less contact with Manor Head Xia. Is he worried that I will hand this relic over to Manor Head Xia and let him verify the Tao in secret? Yes. The few of them looked at him with a strange expression. You really have a relic? What about a relic? Of course, Su Yu had a relic and it was almost universally acknowledged now. If he didn't, no matter how talented Su Yu was, it would be difficult for him to come up with so many powerful cultivation techniques so quickly. Su Yu didn't say anything either. What the hell do I have? Mansion Master Xia probably won't go to the relic to verify his Tao. Su Yu didn't say much and only said this one sentence. Even if there was a relic, Xia Longwu might not go to verify his Tao. Would he be willing to let the murderous Xia Longwu secretly verify his Tao? Perhaps he was trying to lure Invincible over to do a good job. Of course, it was not bad in Su Yu's eyes if he really wanted to achieve Tao in secret. Unfortunately, he really did not have any relics. Tao in relics. Tao in heavens. Tao in small worlds. Su Yu asked curiously, is there a big difference between Tao in different places? Very big. Niu Baidao was really omniscient, he smiled and said, under normal circumstances, it is divided into small worlds to achieve Tao, this world to achieve Tao, and the heavens to achieve Tao. In the small realm to prove one's Tao, because of the laws of heaven and earth, if you advance, the laws will not give you much. Moreover, you will be bound to that small realm. For example, if the small realm is destroyed, you will be severely injured or even fall in realm. And in the small realm to prove one's Tao, for example, the human realm to prove one's Tao, your battle strength in the human realm is actually stronger than in other realms. In the heavens to prove one's Tao, there are no restrictions, and the prospects for development are better. With that, he continued, in the human realm, almost all of the prefecture lords have attained Tao in this realm. Later on, a portion of them advanced to the attainment of Tao in the heavens, and a few others, actually attained Tao in small realms. Niu Baidao shook his head and said, the attainment of Tao in small realms is actually the worst, and the most troublesome. Once this small realm is broken through, you will be in big trouble. There are invincible realms, and you usually can't enter. Once you enter, you won't be able to attain Tao, and they won't give it to you. If there's no invincible realm, it means that the realm isn't strong, and it's easy to break through. Once you break through, you'll be in big trouble. Su Yu nodded. In other words, at the very least, you have to reach the human realm to verify your Tao, since the prefecture opening master is already at the human realm to verify his Tao, then if the human realm is destroyed. That's almost impossible. Niu Baidao smiled. The human realm is big, but it's also very stable. Even if one day, the myriad races really break through, the possibility of destroying the human realm isn't high. Of course, anything is possible. Therefore, some prefecture opening masters almost never mention the matter of migration. Some of the later Tao achieving invincibility experts have mentioned it before. If you're really under too much pressure, do you want to proceed with the migration? Su Yu understood. There were quite a few unexpected gains. Invincibility. There was actually such a big difference. It was much easier to attain Tao in a small world, but it was also much more troublesome. It was very easy to fall. If a world was broken through, you would be done for. Niu Baidao did not mention the matter of invincibility anymore. He chuckled and said, cultivate in peace. After all this trouble, the Myriad clan does not dare to sneak into the Great Ming Mansion again. They have killed a lot of people. If they still dare to come, then they are really crazy. The Myriad clan has lost many Sun and Moon realm cultivators. Manor Head, why does it feel like they have more Sun and Moon realm cultivators than our Great Ming Mansion? How many Sun and Moon realm cultivators were there in the Great Ming Mansion? Su Yu didn't know the exact number, but he only knew about 7 or 8. In the past year, the Myriad clan had lost many people, right? Just the Blood Fire sect alone had lost 3 people. Niu Baidao said with a smile, not that many. You think it's just too many. Mansion Master was exaggerating a little. For example, the Heavenly Yi celestial race that had surrounded and killed Mansion Master Xia previously had all sneaked in at the last minute. The last time Mansion Master killed the Blood Fire demon race, he had sneaked in not long ago. The number of traitors of the human race, Sun and Moon, that he had really killed, were very few. Su Yu did some calculations and it seemed to make sense. Xia Longwu had killed 2 Sun and Moon realm traitors of the human race. One was from the Heavenly Yi celestial sect, and the other was from the Blood Fire sect. As for Zhu Tiandao, he had only killed 5 this time. As for Jin Yuhui, he actually didn't count. 7. In a year, he had killed 7 Sun-Moon realm traitors. This wasn't a small number. Niu Bendao continued, the Myriad clan has existed since more than 300 years ago, and with the great support of the Myriad clan, there are some who have advanced to the Sun-Moon realm. However, even if it's a lot, it's not to the extent of it. We've also roughly calculated before that there might be an average of 1 person in a prefecture, and the Myriad clan has about 30 Sun-Moon realm traitors. Compared to the human clans, their strength is far inferior. Putting everything else aside, there are more than 10 Sun-Moon realm cultivators in the Great Radiance Prefecture, and there are also quite a number of other prefectures. There are even more in the 2 Great Holy Lands, and there are also quite a number of Sun-Moon realm cultivators in the 3 Great Seas. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1276. 1276 Chapter 300 The Beginning of Peace, 3. In addition to the heavenly battlefield, there were quite a number of Sun and Moon realm human realm cultivators. Speaking of which, he continued, however, in the past 50 years, there haven't been many sun and moon realm cultivators. On the surface, there are only 7. No, including Jin Yuhui, there are 8. No, there's still one Tianxing, Ji Hong, Hong Tan, and Zhou Mingren who might be promoted, there are more than 10 of them. Niu Baidao smiled and said, in the past 50 years, there haven't been many suns and moons. There have been more than 10 suns and moons. Think about it, the human realm has accumulated for more than 300 years. More than 300 years ago, there were many suns and moons. At that time, it was the Golden Age. Almost all of U.S. old fellows entered the sun and moon in that era. Therefore, there are many suns and moons in the human realm. However, many people were injured in the past and are now in closed-door cultivation. More than 300 years ago. This person in front of him was really an old antique. Su Yu was immediately interested. Principal, did you fight with the 10,000 races in the human realm back then? Then how did you advance? Niu Baidao stroked his beard, he smiled and said, at that time, the heavenly passage had just been opened. In the beginning, there was no systematic cultivation method for the human realm. However, some people received some inheritances and set up sects in the deep mountains and old forests. Generally speaking, there were cultivators at that time, but they were all very weak. When the heavenly passage was opened, sigh, damn it, I was one step too slow. He said regretfully, at that time, the heavenly passage had just opened, and the gods and demons hadn't arrived yet. The ruins appeared, and the human realm was fighting for it. There was a ruin near me, but that old fellow, Darming Wang, took it away before me. That fellow was just a laborer, and he ran away really fast, what a pity. The first batch of ruins that opened were all very powerful. Those fellows went in, and the ruins closed and disappeared. Then, the rest of us could only pitifully look for some weaker ruins, or some scattered inheritances that opened because of the appearance of the heavenly passage. In just a few years, 10,000 human beings entered the human realm. Niu Baidao shook his head and said, at the beginning, these fellows acted like we were visitors from outer space. They were here to make friends. They wandered around the human realm, made friends with humans, and asked about the location of some relics. At that time, although the humans were somewhat wary and vigilant, the other party acted like an immortal. He even taught some ordinary people how to cultivate, including the cultivation of divine runes. Do you think that after a few years, everyone relaxed their vigilance? In the end, it didn't take long for these fellows to reveal their true colors. After secretly killing the human geniuses and plundering the newly discovered ruins, the matter was exposed. These fellows no longer disguised themselves. They began to slaughter and plunder some ruins and treasures. Niu Baidao sighed, at that time, US humans also began to resist. We were forced to retreat one after another. There were endless wars and massacres. However, the reason why the humans were able to hold on was because the 10,000 races were not united. In order to fight for the ruins, the 10,000 races were also fighting each other. This gave us a chance to catch our breath. Niu Baidao chuckled and said, when the human realm's Yuan Qi recovers, it connects to the heavens. We also obtained some inheritances and cultivated very quickly. Before long, the sun, moon, mountain, and sea appeared and began to fight against the 10,000 races. In the end, the other party became invincible. Niu Baidao shook his head and said, once invincible arrived, the human race became ants. They were killed until they collapsed. At that time, corpses were everywhere and geniuses were killed one after another. Fortunately, it did not last long before Invincible came out. He broke out of the ruins and joined the battle. The great Qin King and the others were all experts who had killed their way out of that era. Many invincible experts suddenly emerged, and they fought for dozens of years in succession. The human realm was empty, and they killed countless people. Later, the great Qin king and the others simply broke out of the human realm and attacked some invincible races, killing small races, and forcing some invincible races to retreat. After that, a few powerful races didn't leave. Later on, the great Qin and great Zhou kings gave up on the human race's defense, and 9 invincible experts sneaked into the divine realm, causing chaos in the divine realm. Niu Bendao chuckled and said, "Think about it, how big of an impact would it be if 9 invincible experts without restrictions charged into the divine realm and killed without distinction?" Back then, the divine realm was also littered with corpses, and the divine realm experts who were killed had no choice but to retreat. In the end, they chose to retreat and compromise with each other. These few words caused Su Yu's heart to surge with emotions. The human race even killed their way into the divine realm in the past. Of course. Niu Bendao laughed heartily and said, "I've been there before. In the past, I also entered the sun-moon realm and went there once. Just kill." In that era, killing was the only way to stop the killing. The great Qin king and the others all knew that if they continued to fight in the human realm, it was likely that the human race would be annihilated. They forcefully relied on killing each other to force Invincible to retreat. At that time, they would compete in ruthlessness. They would see who killed more and who killed faster. They would kill until the other party's heart ached. They would kill until the other party collapsed. Whoever couldn't hold on would be defeated. Su Yu nodded. This was also the only choice back then. If they really continued to fight in the human realm, even if the human realm wasn't destroyed, most of the ordinary people would probably be killed. Then now. Niu Bendao shook his head and said, "Right now, the various great worlds are all heavily guarded at the entrance of the realm. It's not good to barge in anymore. Moreover, back then, the God-fiend race wasn't on good terms with each other, and there were internal conflicts. Now, it's different. It's the same as back then. It's no longer possible to kill in all directions." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1277. 1277 Chapter 300 The Beginning of Peace, Monthly Subscription, 4. As for the God and demon races, they have also slowed down the pace of their attacks over the years. Don't you feel that there are fewer battles? Alright, you don't understand. More than 300 years ago, there were battles every day. Even after the peace talks, there were still endless battles on the heavenly battlefield. During that period, Invincible often fought, but now there are fewer battles. As he spoke, he smiled and said, "Actually, the main reason is that we were afraid of the small clans. At that time, we actually killed quite a number of small clans experts. Some of the Invincible clans had fallen, forcing those small clans to admit defeat. Later on, the gods and demons lost some external assistance, and the internal Invincible clans were not so unified, which allowed us humans to stand firm." Su Yu was a little excited when he heard this. "Back then, we conquered quite a number of small worlds. Yes, we destroyed 7 or 8 small worlds." Niu Bendao chuckled and said, "At that time, the small worlds exploded and the heavens shook." At this point, he continued, "Actually, the final piece had something to do with the immortals. Those invincible immortals later stepped out to be peacemakers and advised everyone to live in peace and stop creating massacres. The immortals were not weak. Just in terms of invincible numbers, they were much stronger than the gods and demons. If they stood on the side of the humans, then there would be no way to fight." Su Yu was surprised. Did the immortals solve the war? On the other side, Hu Xianqing heard this, he interrupted, "Don't treat the immortals as good people. The situation of the immortals at that time was that the patriarch was in closed-door cultivation and couldn't come out. The immortals and demons joined hands and were stronger than them. Their interests in the human realm couldn't be guaranteed. The immortals and demons seized some relics and entered first. Later on, they couldn't get any benefits. They didn't want the immortals and demons to grow stronger, so they became peacemakers. For this, the human race paid a great price. Niu Baidao did not deny it, he smiled and said, they did pay a price. In fact, some of the ruins were opened and later given to the immortal race. Some of the geniuses of the immortal race gained a lot of benefits from the ruins. Later on, 2 or 3 invincible realm warriors were born. Niu Baidao sighed and said, however, humans were under the eaves. At that time, the human realm also needed to develop steadily. Too many people died. Those invincible realm warriors finally accepted the help of the immortal race and paid the price. Only then did they have the peace for the next 300 years. Hu Xianqing interjected, the immortals were not good people. After eating them clean, they wanted to eat more. Later, a group of immortals communicated with the humans, and in the end, they killed and stole many people's goods. At first, everyone tolerated it. After all, we were inferior to them. Later, the great Qin king and the others were not pushovers either. After the situation was stabilized, the gods and demons retreated and used a relic to explode, killing more than 1,000 immortals. Cough cough. Niu Bendao coughed dryly and interrupted, what are you talking about? That was the natural explosion of the ruins. They blew themselves up. What does that have to do with us? Old Hu, don't talk nonsense. We can actually be considered allies with the Celestials now. Hu Xianqing pursed his lips. Alright, whatever you say. Su Yu could not help but laugh. So there were still many twists and turns. Humans did not mention much about the immortal race. They mainly mentioned the god and demon race. Now it seemed that the immortal race was not necessarily not enemies. No wonder Qin Zhen told him last time that killing the fairy was not the first time. There was a simple understanding of the situation of the few powerful races. The god and demon race were enemies, the immortal race, at the current stage, they should not be provoked, but they should not be allies either. Su Yu did not ask any more questions. He had no way of getting involved in these matters at the moment. His priority now was to cultivate. Cast a body. Zhu Tiandao had bought him a lot of time this time and had also bought him a relatively peaceful environment. He could not waste it. Just as he thought of this, Niu Bendao also thought of something and asked, in terms of civilized master, can you advance to Lingyun? Su Yu shook his head, my willpower isn't high enough. I'm only at the high level 2 now. Moreover, even if I can advance to Lingyun now, I actually don't have any advantages. At the very least, I have to sketch some more divine runes and strengthen some divine runes at this stage. At this stage, I have very few level 3 divine runes. In addition, my divine aperture hasn't expanded. In fact, it's not as powerful as some of the divine apertures at the 9th level of the soaring stage. Su Yu smiled. It'll take at least half a year to a year before I can stabilize the soaring stage and enter Lingyun. It was that easy. Hu Xianqing and the others sighed. This kid, in a year's time, he would probably be at the true Lingyun realm. Hu Xianqing suddenly said, you're now 19 years old. Silence. Very quiet. Only then did Niu Baidao remember that this fellow was only 19 years old. In other words, he was already at the Lingyun realm at around 20 years old. Su Yu smiled and said, I'm standing on the shoulders of my predecessors, so it's nothing much. The few of them were too lazy to say anything else, and very soon, Niu Baidao stood up and said, if you need help with something like casting your body, you can look for us. We can't help you with anything else, so why did you graduate from the academy just like that? Because when it comes to soaring, there's actually nothing else to help. In addition, you have officially entered soaring. The title of senior researcher will probably be issued soon. You can take in students now. There are no restrictions on senior researchers taking in students, but generally, it's not appropriate to have too many. The academy will give a part of the subsidy for the students you take in. Hu Xianqing said faintly, he still wants a subsidy. What a joke. A rich and overbearing person still wants a subsidy from you. Who cares about those 3 melon and 2 jujubes? Suyu smiled, but he didn't care. Very quickly, he said, I'll see. I've just entered the soaring skies, and I have a lot of things to do. I don't have the energy and time. I might have to study some things in the near future. I'll have to trouble you to help me contact my teacher, by phone. I hope he can come back. He still hoped that by phone would return. Suyu was really not too familiar with the method of splitting the divine runes. He needed to fill in the divine runes. He might not have any problems with it, but at the current stage, he was unable to fill in the mountains and seas. There was also one more thing, and that was that the Xingyu residence was going to choose a person by the end of this year. He heard that the opportunity was very good, and he hoped that Bai Feng would be able to make it back in time. He did not know how many levels his teacher's strength had recovered to. Even if he had recovered to the 8th or 9th level of the sky, Suyu felt pity for him. In terms of realm, perhaps in a few months, he would be able to reach Ling Yun. Let's not talk about combat strength. How pitiful. Putting everything else aside, if his teacher were to return, it would be difficult for him to help out with the divine inscriptions. If he were to cast his body, he could still provide a large amount of heavenly yuan qi. At the very least, he could improve his physical body. Niu Bendao knew about the splitting of the divine inscriptions. When he heard that, his eyes flickered. He nodded and said, all right, I will communicate with the Great Xia Mansion and the heavenly battlefield. Try to get Bai Feng to return. Return, of course, was to return to the Great Ming Mansion. It was too wasteful for Bai Feng to kill the enemy on the battlefield. After everyone left, Suyu also stood up and revealed a smile. His mood became even happier. Zhu family. Zhu Tiandao. No matter what, regardless of whether he had a motive or not, it didn't matter. At the very least, at the current stage, the Zhu family had provided him with an excellent opportunity and also protected his safety. In the Great Ming Mansion, he had enough time and opportunity to do some things. Comfortable. He didn't have to worry about anything at all. It was very comfortable. It's even better that teacher can return. Suyu muttered softly. Returning to the Daming Prefecture to strengthen the Divine Literature Department was actually much simpler than the Great Xia Prefecture. There was no need to keep an eye on the Great Xia Prefecture. At the same time, Heaven's Battlefield, Vanguard Camp. Bai Feng was cursing and swearing. Recently, he had been so annoyed. He could not do experiments, he could not kill the enemy, it was difficult to outline the divine literature, and he did not have enough resources. He still had to work from 9 to 5. It was so annoying. Sigh. I've been living these days. The next time I go back, that kid Suyu won't have already left, right? The more he thought about it, the more depressed he became. And Master, had he reached the Sun-Moon tier yet? It had been a long time since he had received any news from his master. It was the same for his senior brother. Ever since he had sent a letter the last time, there had been no news from him. He had no idea what was going on. Forget it, let's not think about it. That kid Suyu might be in deep trouble right now. He's probably at his limit since he was able to absolve us of our sins. I wonder how pitiful he is now. He silently sympathized with him. This kid had a bad temper. He might be suffering every day now. P.S. F***CK, good water. I'm done with my sarcasm. You guys don't have anything else to complain about. Goodbye. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1278. 1278 Chapter 301 The focus of the world was only on Xia. 1. News of the Daming Manor quickly spread. In one day, 5 suns and moons had fallen. The sudden turnaround of the Daming Manor, which had been idle for many years, shocked all the major manors. When did the Daming Manor become so tough? The higher-ups of the major manors were more concerned about how the Daming Manor had discovered the existence of these people. What secret did the Daming Manors have that they could actually capture all of these people in one go? Also, Zhu Tiandao went to search for the realm to cause a ruckus, which also made the various large manors envious. He had a powerful father, and even if he didn't achieve the Tao, the Daming Manors also had money. This was their capital. If they didn't have money, the Daming Manors wouldn't dare to cause a ruckus. They were too poor. If they really offended the 8 great clans and blocked off some of their economic needs, they would be in a lot of trouble. Other than the Zhu clan, there was also Su Yu. Was that anomaly real or fake? Was there really a reward for casting the heavenly cycle body? What was the heavenly punishment then? Also, was Su Yu's primordial spirit enlightenment technique really as powerful as the rumor said, that everyone could cultivate a heaven-rank cultivation technique? There were too many doubts and curiosity, causing the gazes of the people to focus on the Daming Mansion. Of course, it was the same for the myriad clans. However, at this moment, the Great Ming Mansion was even more dangerous than the Great Xia Mansion in the eyes of the myriad clans. Although the Great Xia Mansion was often exterminated, there were still some people in the Great Xia Mansion who had been hiding for many years and had not been exposed. However, the Great Ming Mansion had been completely exposed in an instant. The Sun-Moon Mountains and seas had been completely wiped out. Many of Ling Yun's soaring heavens had also been killed. The remaining spies could not be contacted at this moment. It was unknown if they had been sealed or if they did not dare to reply through voice transmission. All in all, the Daming Mansion gave off a very mysterious feeling. In addition, the appearance of some of the older sun and moon cultivators made people realize that the Daming Mansion wasn't that weak. There were still some old people who were alive, but not dead. The old woman surnamed Hu Chi, had advanced to the sun and moon realm 300 years ago. However, she was already very old. She had long since said that she had fallen, but in the end, she hadn't. The other party was still alive, and this time, he had even refined a sun and moon realm cultivator. This shocked the outside world as well. Just how many veteran sun-moon realm experts were still alive in the Daming Manor? Hu Chi was an expert, but her strength could only be said to be average. More importantly, the other party was a weapon forging master, an Earth-grade weapon forging master. Who knew if such an existence had secretly forged some powerful weapon over the years? Despite the liveliness, no one dared to come to the Daming Manor to inquire about anything. As for Su Yu, he rested for the entire night. The next day, he saw Zhu Tiandao, who had left the day before. When he returned, there wasn't much of a commotion. He wasn't that arrogant either. Zhu Tiandao, who had returned, kept a low profile. He knocked on the door of the Primordial Spirit Research Institute, and his expression didn't look too good. The moment he saw Su Yu, he said in a low voice, "Kid, you have many tricks up your sleeves. Come and take a look at the situation with me." Teacher Hu. It seems like his time is up. At this moment, Zhu Tiandao was no longer as glib as before. His eyes were slightly red as he endured the pain. Su Yu was also slightly taken aback. Hu Chi Sr. Zhu Tiandao grimaced. I thought that she would be fine. Although she had expended too much energy previously, I thought that she would be able to hold on for a period of time. But now, he was very sad. That was his teacher. In the past, he had taught him for a very long period of time. The things he learned were very miscellaneous. Divine Literature Master, Weapon Forging Master, Alchemist, Divine Talisman Master, Divine Array Master, he had come into contact with many professions. Now, he was unable to extend his teacher's life. He wanted to see if Su Yu had any tricks up his sleeve. Su Yu had inherited some things and perhaps he had a way to extend his teacher's life. Su Yu's expression also changed slightly. The end of his life. This was something that he had never encountered before. The experts he knew were almost all young. The biggest one should be Niu Baidao. Over at the Great Xia Manor, he had only heard of Lu Hong's teacher, who was nearing the end of his life. The others were all very young. Yesterday, that senior who was still in high spirits, refining a sun and moon in public as a literary soldier. Today, his life was about to come to an end. Manor head, I might not be of much help. Sigh. Zhu Tiandao sighed and said, let's not talk about this anymore. Let's go and see teacher. Teacher is really going to pass away. He looked at Su Yu and didn't say anything. Perhaps, some of the divine inscriptions could be passed down to Su Yu. He had already passed down many inheritances in the past. He didn't know if it would work. He had brought Su Yu over because Wuxia wanted him to. If she really passed away and the divine script couldn't form a secret realm, then he would pass it down and give it a try. Bright Heart Island. Bright Heart Hall. At this moment, the atmosphere was oppressive. In the middle of the hall, the old woman's face was pale, and a faint aura of death emanated from her body. There was a slight smile on her face, and in front of her stood a furnace. Old men sat cross-legged around her, but no one uttered a single word. Hu Xiansheng, Niu Baidao, Vice Mansion Master Wang, and the other old men, all fell silent. People from the same era. Sun-Moon realm cultivators had a lifespan of over 1,000 years. Logically speaking, they should be able to live to 1,000 years old. Wuxia and the others were only around 500 years old. However, when it came to cultivation, especially when it came to the experts of the older generation, almost all of them had made mistakes in their cultivation. They would often try out different cultivation techniques and pills, and their wills and physical bodies had been damaged before. There was no way they could live to their theoretical limits. Wuxia was a weapon forging master, and he had forged countless weapons. If he were to forge weapons frequently, it would also result in the invasion of the fire poison, depleting his lifespan. In the past few decades, he had been forging the supreme sensing jade to cover an entire city, and he had expended a great deal of effort in doing so. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1279. 1279 Chapter 301 The focus of the world was only Xia, too. Why are all of you sulking? Wuxia smiled and said, I'm looking for you guys to help with the work, not to rush to the funeral. This fellow's armament refining is not something that can be completed in a few days. If he succeeded, I'm afraid he would be at least an earth rank. Wuxia's face turned slightly yellow as she smiled and said, Old Niu, work. Niu Baidao was a little annoyed. He ignored her as he drank his wine. He muttered, I shouldn't have invited all of you back then. Each and every one of you died very quickly. I'm still in good spirits. I feel like I can live for another 300 to 500 years. All of you are going to die. Isn't old Wang still alive? I've been looking forward to his death for many years. That divine text of his can definitely form a mystic realm, and it's even a high-end mystic realm. Beside him, Vice Principal Wang also smiled wryly. You old fellow, if you die, I'm afraid you'll be able to form several secret manuals. Why aren't you dead? I haven't eaten enough, I haven't drunk enough. The few elders chattered, and Hu Xiansheng also babbled, I'm just a mountain and sea. I'm not dead yet, and even the sun and moon are about to die. In this day and age, it's useless to be strong. He was also an old man who had opened a prefecture. When these words were said, the few of them started to scold him jokingly. Wuxia also laughed and said, You're a person who's afraid of death, and you're extremely good at running away. Your physical body hasn't been injured in all these years. Your civilization master level is the mountains and seas, and your physical body is probably already at the sun and moon level. Don't talk nonsense. Hu Xianxing didn't admit it. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, he said helplessly, I really don't have one. The physical body of the 9th layer of the mountains and seas hasn't even fused with one aperture. It's too difficult. I won't lie to you guys. The few of them laughed. As they spoke, Zhu Tiandao brought Suyu into the room. The sadness in his eyes disappeared. With a smile, he said, Teacher Hu, how is it? Have you finished refining it? Soon. Hu Qi looked at him and quickly looked at Suyu. With a smile, she said, I heard that you are also a weapon forging master. Suyu's face was filled with embarrassment. No, I just have a simple understanding of weapon forging. I once learned some basic knowledge from teacher Zhao Li at the Great Xia Civilization Academy. I know some forging processes, but I have never tried to forge a weapon. You should try. Hu Qi laughed. Zhao Li is very talented in weapon forging. In the past, he was a little too competitive and insisted on forging the strongest Earth-grade weapon in advance. He wanted to merge his main divine script into it and hurt his foundation. Otherwise, he would have entered the mountains and seas and become an Earth-grade weapon forging master. After saying that, he smiled and said, his father is indeed very strong. It's just a pity that he wasn't able to become a heaven-rank weapon forging master in the end. What a pity. As he said that, he looked at Suyu and said with a smile, I'm going to forge an Earth-rank weapon today. You can observe a little. Earth-rank weapon forging, you should know something about it. Suyu nodded. To forge a golden pattern, above the 73 golden patterns, is the Earth rank. When teacher Zhao forged the weapon back then, he was actually able to forge 73 golden pattern weapon forging. It was just that he was a little greedy and wanted to forge the foundation of a heaven rank weapon forging, causing the forging to fail. Hu Qi nodded and said with a smile, he does have this ability. He is confident in casting Earth soldiers. Back then, we also felt that he had the confidence to succeed, but the outcome of failure was also beyond our expectations. His requirements are too high. As he said that, he said with a smile, Suyu, then do you know how big the difference is between different grades of literary soldiers? Suyu nodded. It's sturdier, more suited to its own body, and easier to display the characteristics of divine literature. It's not comprehensive enough. Hu Qi smiled and said, did you see the 100-path pavilion? Did you see the power of the 100-path pavilion previously? It contained energy, and with a single strike, the sun and moon were annihilated. At this stage, even if there was no one controlling the literary soldiers, they were still incomparably powerful. This is the pinnacle of the literary soldiers. In my life, I also want to forge a literary soldier like this, but unfortunately, it's not within my reach. Cough cough. Hu Qi coughed. Very quickly, she said, in today's world, if you want to talk about the strongest weapon forging, it's the invincible state's Tianzhu king. Strictly speaking, it might be Zhao Tianbing. Perhaps he's still a little lacking, but it's true that his weapon forging strength is extremely strong. In the Great Xia Manor, you came into contact with Zhao Li. It's actually a very good opportunity, but unfortunately. She looked at Suyu, she smiled and said, you are actually very suitable for weapon forging. Really, it's not that I want you to forge weapons, but that you are suitable to eat this bowl of rice. Your willpower is deep, pure, and rich. Your sea of willpower is strong. Moreover, you should also know the expanding spirit technique that Zhao Li created himself. His expanding spirit hammer is actually also a good thing for weapon forging. As Hu Qi said this, she paused for a moment and looked at the others. I want to teach Suyu some weapon forging techniques. The few of you, how about giving us some time? Once these words were said, Zhu Tiandao bared his teeth and laughed, Teacher Hu, what's the rush? In the future, as time goes by, Suyu won't run away. Suyu, right? Suyu hurriedly nodded his head. Wuxia laughed and said, humans are born, old, sick, and dead. There's no need for you to be like this. Look on the bright side. I've lived for 500 years. Back then, the human realm was 10 rooms and 9 rooms were empty. At that time, many of my family and friends had died. Some of my childhood friends died when they were 10 or 20 years old. As for me, I've lived to this day. What else is there to look on the bright side? Niu Baidao said faintly, the 10,000 clans only invaded 400 years ago. You were already an old man at that time. Even if your best friend really died, she would still be over 100 years old. Wuxia, you can only sigh with emotion, but don't lie. Silence. 400 years ago, the 10,000 clans only entered the human realm and fought for several decades. Only then did the era of the Great Mansion begin. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1280. 1280 Chapter 301 The focus of the world was only on Xia. 3. Wuxia was 500 years old. When the battle broke out, she was actually not young anymore. Wuxia looked at him in a daze. After a long while, she started coughing. I'm about to die, and you're still trying to provoke me? Niu Baidao laughed dryly and said, let's be more sincere. Don't think about those messy things. I won't die. I still have a longevity fruit over there. I'll send it to you later. No need. No. Wuxia's face was full of dissatisfaction. Niu Baidao laughed and said, eat it. It's nothing. I don't need it anyway. If old Wang wants it, I won't give it to him. I'll just wait for him to die. You can't do that. I'm still waiting for you to cast a heaven-grade literary soldier for us. I know about my own matters. Even if I eat it, I won't be able to live for long. It's a waste. Wuxia said. Suyu said carefully, seniors, logically speaking, once you reach the sun-moon realm, it shouldn't be so easy to die. Even if we humans are inferior to gods and demons, it shouldn't be a problem for the sun and moon to live for 1,000 years, right? Why is senior? Wuxia smiled and said, the body is decaying, and the sea of will has also been injured. The qi and blood are declining. Suyu hurriedly said, then what about reforging the body? Right now, we have the convergence technique, the primordial spirit awakening technique, the body reconstruction, and the earth origin fruit. Perhaps we will be able to cultivate to the mountains and seas again very soon, or even the sun and moon. At that time, the sun and moon body shouldn't be difficult to live for 1,000 years, right? A child is a child. Wuxia smiled and said, no matter how fast the body reconstruction is, entering the sun and moon will still take tens to hundreds of years, right? I can't wait any longer. Other people can try. When civilized masters were young, they didn't pay attention to their bodies. The decline of their bodies still has a great impact. It's the same for warriors. Their seas of will are exhausted, and their bodies are constantly fighting and declining. In fact, more warriors die of old age. Then what if you open some more divine apertures? Suyu hurriedly said, if you open more divine apertures, will your seas of will expand and show vitality? Our sun and moon have long fused into one aperture. Wuxia smiled and said, it's too difficult to open your divine aperture again. Moreover, opening your divine aperture might also speed up the process of your sea of consciousness collapsing. You might not be able to withstand it. Suyu hurriedly said, then that life-prolonging cultivation method. Life-prolonging cultivation method. Yes, 1,000-year-old tortoise with 80,000 years of lifespan. The longevity of the rotary turtle clan is very long. Perhaps it has something to do with their cultivation method, the life-prolonging cultivation method. The human's primordial aperture and divine aperture have special functions. There must be some primordial aperture and divine aperture. After combining them, it can extend one's lifespan and stimulate one's vitality. Su Yu quickly said, there must be. Senior Hu, I'm an expert in this aspect. You can endure for a period of time. I'll think of a way. There must be something. Su Yu said seriously, among the myriad races in the heavens, the lifespan of the human race is almost the shortest. In some races, the sun and moon realm could live for 10,000 years, but the human race could only live for a few thousand years. Even if they don't extend their lifespan, some healing techniques will do. They can cure diseases and bring the dead back to life. Su Yu quickly said, I didn't do any research in this area before, but if I want to do it, I will be able to get results very soon. A few months, at most a few months. Senior, please hold on for a while. Senior is an Earth-grade weapon forging master. You can make more contributions for the human race, the Daming Manor, and yourself. If you die just like that, it will be the loss of the entire human race. The moment these words left his mouth, Zhu Tiandao hurriedly said, that's right, teacher, that's the way it is. This is what I meant when I brought Su Yu here. Nothing is certain. Don't tell me that there isn't a life-extending cultivation technique. There has to be. Your existence is extremely important to the Daming Manor. Su Yu can go and develop it. I will provide all the manpower and resources. Even if it isn't for your own sake, you should consider for the sake of the manor head and the others. They are already old and about to die. You should give them a demonstration to see if it will be of any use. Vice Manor Head Wang and the other elders at the side were all exhausted. Who did we offend? Why did it feel like all of them were eager to die? There was no way to stay in this Daming Manor. It felt like the moment I died, the divine runes would be snatched away by someone. Hu Qi was just about to speak. Zhu Tiandao hurriedly said, Teacher, you can still hold on, right? Give Su Yu some time. He could even come up with the basic formula. There was no problem even with the acupoint fusion technique. What else was there to worry about? He had opened 360 acupoints. He could immediately try out any cultivation technique he came up with. Su Yu hurriedly nodded. Logically speaking, he did not wish for these old men to die in meditation. This was a group of experts who had fought against the myriad races in the past and fought for the light of the human race. Moreover, this time, Hu Qi had taken action to suppress the sun and moon. Strictly speaking, it was also because of Su Yu's matter. Zhu Tiandao had come to look for him, and Hu Qi wanted to teach him some knowledge of weapon forging when they met. He had to be grateful. Was there a method to extend one's lifespan? Su Yu did not know, but he could try. There must be some races that had lived for a very long time and had techniques or talents related to this aspect. The gods and demons did not have it, but the other races might not. They could try. Niu Bendao also said, let's give it a try. You're not the only one. There are many people who are going to pass away. Even the Daming Prefecture has a few, not to mention the entire human realm. Earlier, when little Zhu went to seek for the Discovery Realm, you saw it too. On the other side of the Discovery Realm, Wang Chonghuan's words are already weak and he's about to die. He's not much better than you. These old fellows can't hold on much longer either. Try to endure it a little longer. If Su Yu really comes out, then it'll be a strong medicine for you and those old fellows. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1281. 1281 Chapter 301 The focus of the world was only on Xia. 4. Wang Chonghuan and Zhu Tiandao went to seek enlightenment and stood out to question the old man of the great Han King. There were quite a number of such old men in the founding era. In the past, they were all heavily injured, leaving behind hidden dangers. Now, each and every one of them was nearing the end of their lifespan. Wuxia was somewhat shaken by their words. She was already prepared to pass away in meditation. At this moment, she looked at Suyu with some uncertainty. As for Suyu, he quickly said, "Senior Hu, believe me, I can do it. During this period of time, you shouldn't be busy with anything else. You should continue to expend your blood, sweat, and years of life. Even if you were to forge a powerful Earth-rank literary soldier at the last moment, so what? A person can forge 10 or 100 while alive. Isn't forging a heaven-rank literary soldier even stronger than now?" At this point, Suyu bared his teeth and said with a smile, "Moreover, I have some ideas." From the words of the seniors, there are quite a number of senior experts who are about to pass away in meditation. The seniors know my current situation and it's very troublesome. I need more people to support me, stand on my side, stand up for me, and support me. Therefore, if I really come up with a method to extend my lifespan, I want to see if I can rope in some seniors. These seniors aren't weak either, and I'm afraid there are quite a number of suns and moons. Suyu chuckled and said, "Moreover, I feel that these people are quite reliable. Most of them have been in closed-door cultivation for many years and mainly focus on healing their injuries. It has nothing to do with the mutiny of the multi-god text 50 years ago. Moreover, they are a group of experts who fought with Invincible in all directions at the same time in the past. Old friends, one person is not enough. If 3 to 5 people go and influence the Invincible realm, then I will be amazing. I won't be afraid of any trouble in the future. And all of this needs an example." Suyu smiled and said, "Senior Hu, you are the most suitable. If I were to cure you, how could those people not believe me? I will definitely remember the kindness of saving my life and those who are sentimental. Those who are not sentimental would be too embarrassed to target me, right? In the future, they might even need to rely on me to save their lives, don't you think so?" Wuxia was slightly startled and looked at him. After a long while, the old man smiled. "Now that you mention it, it seems like I really can't die. I'll have to wait for you to research a life-saving method to extend my lifespan." Suyu immediately nodded, he chuckled and said, "You're the best advertisement. When the time comes, you can help me advertise it. That would be amazing. Initially, you were about to pass away, but now that you're full of energy, you can still advance. If you advance to heaven-rank weapon forging master or invincible realm, then the effect of this advertisement would be simply heaven-defying." The others kept nodding their heads. The manor head also laughed and said, "Kid, if you really can create such a cultivation technique, I will personally go to the exploration realm and pull a few old farts to support you." Back then, he was also a good hand. He killed without mercy, and most of them had a skill. Take Wang Chonghuan, who appeared this time, for example. He can be counted as part of my family. This old fellow is not weak, and he is good at making talismans. He has a divine talisman technique, and few can compare to him. In the past, he used 188 mountain and sea divine talismans to trap and kill a 4th-level sun-moon expert. Niu Baidao also laughed, "I know a lot of people too. Some of the old fogies aren't very strong, but they really have many tricks up their sleeves. There's an old fogey in the Great Song Manor who specializes in refining pills and poison pills. He only refined poison pills his entire life. He's at the 3rd level of the Sun-Moon realm, but he poisoned a 7th-level Sun-Moon realm cultivator to death in the past. However, now that he's surrounded by poison gas, he's in a life worse than death. His sea of consciousness is about to be poisoned to the point of withering. If you save him, that fellow won't be able to back you up. Whoever touches you can poison his entire family to death." Then he laughed and said, "The great Song King still owes him a favor. In the past few years, he has personally extended his life a few times. If you can deal with him, you might be able to deal with the great Song King." Even if you can't, it won't be a big problem for him to beg the great Song King to help him once. The few elders spoke one after another, and soon, Wuxia joined the discussion. The hall that was previously lifeless suddenly came to life. Soon, the discussion began. I think there are two types of methods to extend one's lifespan. Some people's physical bodies are in decline, and some people's seas of will are exhausted. The injuries are different. Actually, everyone's lifespan hasn't reached the limit, and they still have vitality. The main problem is that these injuries, old, suppress everything. The method to extend one's life must be closer to healing the injuries. Removing those injuries might allow everyone to stimulate their vitality to recover. It's best if you can come up with a cultivation method to stabilize your sea of consciousness. It's not that many people's injuries can't be solved, but that their sea of consciousness is weak and can't be forcefully solved. For example, if you ask Invincible to forcefully remove it, but more often than not, it's easy for Invincible to cause your sea of consciousness to collapse, and you'll die even faster. The soul expanding technique can't do it, it's too rigid. This cultivation technique is still fine for you young people, but for us old fellows, our sea of consciousness is so weak that it's about to collapse. With a few hammers, we'll be smashed to death. Everyone spoke one after another, and very quickly, they entered into a discussion. Even Wuxia, who was about to pass away for meditation, had forgotten that she was going to die. She argued with a few elders, insisting that there was nothing wrong with her train of thought. Zhu Tiandao sneakily dragged Suyu out of the room. After leaving the room, he bared his teeth and smiled. He sent a telepathic message to Suyu, try your best. I was afraid that Hu Laoshe wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. From the looks of it, he still has some motivation. It won't be a problem for him to hold on for a little longer. As for the longevity prolongation method, he sighed, do your best. It wasn't that no one in the human race wanted to develop it, but the cultivation techniques that were created a few years ago weren't effective. On the contrary, they could cause one to die even faster. You better not create these cultivation techniques. The problem is very complicated. The main reason is that these old men are actually very weak. If you don't cultivate them properly, your injuries will quickly worsen, resulting in premature death. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1282. 1282 Chapter 301 The focus of the world was only on Xia. 5. He smiled bitterly and said, there are quite a number of old people like Daming Manor. It's not just Civilization Academy, Zhanjing Academy also has them. Their injuries are too severe, and they can't continue to fight anymore. They can retire in Zhanjing Academy. All the big manors have them. Back then, many people seem to have seen the light of dawn when they inherited the divine literature. In fact, they were all waiting to inherit their legacy. In the end, after so many years, Lu Wenyan and the others have been crippled. Even though they appeared for the first time a few days ago, they still didn't bring any hope to everyone. I hope that you can bring some light to everyone on your side. He did not say anything else, he quickly said, let's not talk about this anymore. If you need anything, you can come to me at any time. I will provide you with everything you need. Also, if you need manpower, I have just brought back 30,000 strongmen. If you need help, you can bring a team of people to help with the chores. Strongmen. Suyu hesitated and said, Manor Head, these strongmen are all in the sky-bearing realm and their strength is not weak. Why do I feel that you do not value them too much? These people were only able to rise to the sky realm because their potential was stimulated by drugs or other methods. In terms of strength, they are not bad, but they hurt their foundation and have no future to cultivate. For an army like the Heavenly Tao Army, although their strength is weak, they are often pleasantly surprised. Some people can advance to the mountain and sea realm, and even have hope of rising from the sun and the moon. Strong men have almost no hope. Zhu Tiandao explained a few sentences. Very quickly, he smiled and said, "Of course, these people still have their own way of fighting. Otherwise, the quest for enlightenment state and the war god hall wouldn't have created the Hercules army. These people all cultivate the same kind of cultivation technique. At the critical moment, with the formation together, 30,000 Hercules can be seen by you as the 3 suns and moons. Of course, it's difficult to kill the suns and moons, but it's not a problem to surround and suppress them. The only problem is that the losses will not be small." Suyu nodded and quickly said, "I understand. If there's a need, I'll look for the manor head. That's not the most urgent matter right now. It's the matter of extending one's lifespan. I'll go back and study it. If there's anything I need, I'll look for the manor head." Hu Qi could not hold on for too long. Moreover, Suyu's words of looking for a backer were not without reason. If the group of old men really managed to save them, he could be considered to have a strong foundation in the human realm. Before this, these old men didn't have much authority. It wasn't that they didn't have enough credit, strength, or experience, but that they didn't have the time. In the past 100 years, they had been in closed-door cultivation for 99 years to treat their injuries. Even if they gave you authority, you wouldn't be able to use it. If they really recovered and came out of closed-door cultivation, the people at the helm would have to go to the side. Suyu didn't expect everyone to be grateful to him. If some people remembered his kindness, Suyu would be much more comfortable. It would be difficult for the people in the human realm to do anything to him. Furthermore, he would take this opportunity to ask old Zhu for more benefits. He was running out of money again. He had given 100 merit points to Hu Xiansheng. He was about to become penniless. He still needed a large amount of blood essence. He needed to extract Heaven Yuan Qi to quickly cast his body and advance. Old Zhu was rich. Once a few cultivation techniques were released, he made a lot of money. Because of Hu Qi's matter, Suyu's research institute had begun to divide the work. There were many tasks. The final perfection of the primordial spirit awakening technique, the matching of the body forging technique, and the matching of the 9 transformations of vital qi. The deduction of the fusion technique. The deduction of the life-prolonging technique. Also, the fusion technique was used to deduce some basic cultivation techniques. It was best to modify a set of cultivation techniques based on the original foundation. When Zhong and the others had all received tasks. At this moment, the research institute really started to get busy. As for Wu Lan, Suyu had also given her a bunch of information-gathering tasks. Wu Lan was also extremely busy. The Primordial Spirit Research Institute was starting to move on the right track. Just as Suyu was busy deducing the life-prolonging method again. Great Xia Manor. Xia family. Lord Xia Ho had just scolded Manager Hu away and was about to eat something when Xia Longwu's figure flashed and appeared in front of him. "Why are you out again?" Lord Xia Ho said helplessly, "You run around every day. Who would believe that you are in closed-door cultivation? If you aren't in closed-door cultivation and you aren't in charge of anything, then wouldn't your previous closed-door cultivation become a joke? The reason why I asked you to enter closed-door cultivation was because I hoped that you would be less in the limelight and that the myriad clans would pay less attention to you. Are you stupid?" Xia Longwu smiled faintly and did not think much of it. He sat down and said, "Second uncle, just keep an eye on us. Don't take it too seriously. At this stage, you and grandfather should not struggle anymore." Lord Xiaohu was helpless. "We still want to struggle a little more." Xia Longwu did not care about what he thought. He smiled and said, "Let's not talk about this anymore. Second uncle, I want to go out for a while. I won't be back for a while. I'm afraid it will take half a year and a year. As for the Great Xia Manor, you have to take care of it. Where are we going? Don't ask any more. I have something to do." Xia Longwu smiled faintly and said, "Second uncle, I'll leave it to you then." There's also that kid Hu Yu. Keep an eye on him. His progress is too slow. You. Xiahou Yi wanted to say something, but he hesitated. Xia Longwu did not say anything more and his figure disappeared again. Xiahou Yi was helpless. After he left, he sighed. If he ran out now, it would be very dangerous. He leaned against the chair and was in a daze for a while. After a while, another person came and said with a light smile, Longwu has left. What are you doing here? Xiahou Yi looked at Wan Tianxing and said gloomily, didn't you go into seclusion and not do anything? I felt that he had left. I came to take a look. Xiahou Yi glanced at him and scolded after a long while, F***ck, why are you keeping an eye on our house? Otherwise, how would you know that Longwu had left? Wan Tianxing's smile was brilliant. Don't misunderstand. He has left. I more or less sensed it. Master and disciple are connected. No matter what, he is still my disciple. **T. Lord Xiahou could not be bothered to say more. He said impatiently, you came just for this matter? No. Wan Tianxing said faintly, it's almost the next year. I'm preparing to recruit more students from the myriad races. Something happened last year, that little brat Su Yu, let him go then. He insisted on killing a few students from the myriad races, forget it, I don't care about this. I want to recruit more students from the myriad races this year. How many? At least 300. Wan Tianxing smiled and said, fortunately, it's not too many. Next, I want to bring our students to the myriad realms in the heavens and exchange ideas with some of the academy's students. We can get to know each other and compare notes. Xiahou Yi frowned. What else? Wan Tianxing smiled and said, there's one more thing. Hong Tan is about to come out of seclusion. I can sense it. When he comes out of seclusion, I will ask him to reopen the multi-divine script department. Also, regarding the splitting method, I am prepared to leak some information. Hong Tan will take the blame. Lord Xiahou frowned and looked at him. After a long while, he gritted his teeth and said, don't mess with me. If you do this, very soon, the great Xia Manor will become the center of turmoil again. Wan Tianxing smiled and said, it was just adding fuel to the fire. The great Ming Manor still wanted to steal the limelight. How could you be convinced? How could that weak manor compare to the great Xia Manor? Marquis, be more open-minded. In my opinion, the great Xia Manor is best to become the core of the 10,000 worlds and the focus of the 10,000 worlds. After Su Yu, that brat, left, the great Xia Manor quieted down. That trash Yuan Qingdong didn't manage to do anything either. I'm very disappointed. Marquis Xia's face was stern. After a long while, he said in a deep voice, is there anything else? Of course there is. Wan Tianxing smiled and said, wait until Lu Wenyan has advanced to Sun Moon Realm and transferred him back. I have something that I need him for. Don't play with fire too much. Then there's no need for Marquis to worry about it. Wan Tianxing smiled faintly and said, that's what makes it interesting, isn't it? I think Marquis will like it. Like your grandpa. Master Xiahou cursed. After a while, he said in a muffled voice, as you wish. I'm too lazy to care. But there's one thing I want to say. Don't bring too much harm to the great Xia Manor. That won't happen. Wan Tianxing smiled and said, let's go, waiter. Work hard and enter the 9th level of the Sun Moon Realm earlier. Your speed is a little slow. After saying that, he laughed and disappeared. Lord Xiahou cursed in a low voice. Waiter, your grandpa. Wan Tianxing, this bastard, had been full of demonic energy recently. After Su Yu left, this guy felt that he had let go of him. Su Yu left, and Yu Hong and the others attacked Su Yu, breaking his last shackle. And now, the demon in his heart had been released. A headache. Lord Xiahou sighed. Each and every one of the great Xia mansion was worrying people. If Long Wu was like this, if Wan Tianxing was like this, then Hong Tan's exit from closed-door cultivation might result in an unforeseen event. Nowadays, it was impossible to just sit around and wait for death. Make a fuss, make a fuss. The focal point of the world will always be the great Xia Manor. He chuckled. Rise in glory, but end in glory. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1283. 1283 Chapter 302, Eternal Infamy, Monthly Subscription, 1. Daming Manor. In the cultivation room, Suyu was constantly casting his body. His heavenly yuan qi was constantly being consumed, and his body was flickering with golden light. He did not study the 10 invincible manuscripts at this moment. These few days were not the time for him to study them. Studying the divine inscriptions sometimes took too long. After cultivating for a while, Suyu let out a breath, stood up, and walked out of the cultivation room. He went upstairs. On the 3rd floor, Wu Lan's eyes were a little dark. She yawned. It was not elegant at all, so she did not mind. She said weakly, I've sorted it out. The long-lived ones, the ones with strong recovery abilities, the ones with healing effects on their flesh and blood, the ones that are good at medicine. There are a total of 74 kinds of creatures. Senior Brother Wen and I have discussed it with them, and so far, we've discovered these. Take a look for yourself. As he spoke, he yawned and said, in addition, some races are good at divine runes, and divine runes also have special healing effects. It's not easy to collect these things. If you need them, I'll go and check again. It's been hard on you. Suyu smiled and said, you go and rest for a while. We'll handle the rest. All right. Wulan said, then, she yawned and said, about that, my great-aunt asked someone to deliver a message to me. She said that your father has retreated from the front lines and is in the rear headquarters, where the great Qin King and the others are stationed. She told you that you don't have to worry about your father and don't have to worry about Director Chen. Everything will be fine. Also, the great Xia Manor has been in a bit of turmoil recently, and she told you not to think about going back. After saying that, he muttered, tell me not to go back either. Suyu was slightly startled. A small disturbance? The Myriad Clan sect had already been killed for quite a while, and the great Xia Manor was not afraid of the Myriad Clan sect. Could it be that the Divine Literature sect was causing trouble again? It couldn't be that serious. Yuan Qingdong had not appeared much recently, so what was going on? Strictly speaking, the great Xia Manor had been relatively peaceful recently. Where did the disturbance come from? Even though he was puzzled, Suyu still nodded. After Wulan left, he thought for a moment, took out his voice transmission talisman, and quickly transmitted his voice, Brother Zhang, is there anything different about the great Xia Manor recently? The great Xia Manor. The civilized academy. Zhang Hao walked in the academy and felt a little lifeless. The academy had been somewhat lifeless recently. Wan Tianxing didn't care anymore, and many elders had gone into seclusion. Resources had been reduced, and a portion of the teachers had gone to the heavenly battlefield. Many talented students had also gone out to carry out missions recently. After receiving Su Yu's voice transmission, Zhang Hao quickly sent a message, there are many differences, quite a lot. The academy is a little lifeless, and I feel that there isn't much vitality. I will be going out to carry out missions soon. Oh right, my grandfather said that next semester, the great Xia Manor might make even greater concessions to pave the way for the manor head. Concessions? Suyu was stunned for a moment before he quickly sent a message, what concessions? I'm not sure about the specifics. There is some vague news that Master Xiaoho sent people to contact the myriad races, including some of the fiend god races. He wants to sign some truce agreements, make concessions, and seek their support. He even wants to open the academy to the fiend god races and allow the fiend god disciples to enter the academy to study. He is even willing to give up a portion of the Starry Manor's quota. This is simply crazy. Zhang Hao's heart was filled with worry. He quickly said, "We can't confirm whether this news is true or not. We haven't come to a conclusion yet. If we really do this, the Great Xia Mansion will be viewed as an enemy by some of the major manors. What my grandfather means is that the internal department is unable to help the mansion master verify his Tao. What the Xia family means now is to seek outside help." Su Yu's expression changed. Seek outside help. He must be crazy. Was Lord Xia crazy? Was he going to cut off the land and pay compensation for Xia Long's martial Tao, or even break the backbone of the Great Xia Mansion? Although he had escaped from the Great Xia Mansion, it was impossible for him to say that he had no feelings for the Great Xia Mansion. That was his hometown, and he was most proud of the Great Xia Mansion's blade. It was never soft. Kill. Killing on the heavenly battlefield, killing in the myriad clan sect. Other than being a little soft on the single divine text, the Great Xia Mansion's blade was never soft. And today, Zhang Hao told him that the Great Xia Mansion might have to put down this blade. If they put down this blade, what would be left? The Great Xia Mansion had persisted for hundreds of years. What was the point? Brother Zhang, is what you said true? I'm not sure. My grandfather only heard manager who casually mention it and didn't dare to ask in detail. Lord Ho might really be anxious. Mansion Master Xia heard that he couldn't suppress it anymore and would soon need to verify the Tao. And now, there aren't many people who are unrivaled in the human realm who clearly expressed their support for Mansion Master Xia's verification of the Tao. Zhang Hao had also heard his grandfather's words and was filled with worry. Brother Su, you are now a famous person in Daming Manor. Can you contact Daming King and fight for a chance for Manor Head? There might be people in our Great Xia Manor who have let you down, but... Manor Head. I don't know how to say it either. I only know that if Manor Head were to fall, I'm afraid. The Great Xia Manor will not be able to recover its vitality in the future. Su Yu remained silent. Soon, he sent another message. I will try my best to obtain this information. Pay more attention to it and ask around. If there are any changes, feel free to contact me at any time. Alright, right. Recently, the sun and moon often shine in a secret realm of the academy. I heard that Elder Hong or Principal Zhou might be coming out of seclusion. If they are coming out of seclusion, it might be the sun and moon. Grand Teacher is coming out of seclusion. Su Yu was surprised, but he was helpless. He had finally come out of seclusion. From the moment he entered the academy to the moment he left, Hong Tan had only returned once. After staying for less than a month, he had swiftly gone into seclusion. It was hard to tell what he was feeling now that he had come out of seclusion. Alright, I understand. Thank you, Brother Zhang. By the way, how is the cultivation of the primordial spirit enlightenment art coming along? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1284. 1284 Chapter 302, Eternal Notoriety, Monthly Subscription, 2. I've opened 48 apertures, and it cost me a lot of money. You bastard, don't tempt me with such good stuff next time. Zhang Hao was smiling at this moment. In order to compensate the people in the association, Su Yu had made some of his cultivation methods public in advance. Now, he had also switched to the primordial spirit awakening technique, opening more than 40 apertures. In addition, he had already opened more than 30 apertures. The Zhang family was also sparing no effort to support him, hoping that he could quickly complete the opening of 72 apertures, fly into the sky, and then quickly step into Ling Yun. That's good. When there's an opportunity later, I'll give you something good. Su Yu did not say much and quickly cut off the voice transmission. In his heart, he was thinking about what the great Xia mansion was trying to do behind this action. The great Xia family was going to bow their heads. Bow their heads to the 10,000 clans. The compensation for the land was a little exaggerated, but Master Xia was now spreading the news that he wanted to stop the war with the 10,000 clans. He even wanted to make some concessions and pay a price in order to get the 10,000 clans to ease up on Xia Longwu's attainment. Was it possible? Su Yu felt that it was impossible. The Xia family, was they really going to do this for Xia Longwu's attainment? Su Yu felt a little uncomfortable. Did Xia Longwu agree? If he knew and tacitly agreed, then would he still be the Xia Longwu that everyone worshipped? Xia family. Su Yu silently chanted. Such a Xia family was not the Xia family that he had expected. He could understand the Xia family's difficulties, including the Xia family's tolerance towards the single divine language lineage, but that was only the human race. Now, even the powerful demons and gods had to give in to the mortal enemy of the human race. The blade of the great Xia manor had been put down. The only sharp blade in the heavenly battlefield was the blade of the great Qin manor. Was it worth it for Xia Long to attain the Tao? Su Yu did not know. He only knew that the Xia family and the great Xia manor might no longer be the Xia family that he admired. He walked down the stairs and headed toward the city lord's manor. He had to find Zhu Tiandao and ask for some things that he needed, including the blood essence. He also had to ask if Zhu Tiandao had heard about the news from the Xia family. Su Yu's safety was still guaranteed in the current Great Ming Manor. The 3 mountain and sea demons had also been protecting him in secret. Only a group of people had died in the Great Ming Manor, and there weren't that many days and months left. They had been idle for a long time, and they had been looking for death. At the city lord's manor, Su Yu saw Zhu Tiandao and handed over the materials Wu Lan had prepared. He said, "Manor head, I need at least 3 drops of blood essence from each of these races. It would be best if they are at the soaring cloud realm. If they don't have it, it's fine even if they are a little weaker." Zhu Tiandao opened the booklet and took a look. He nodded slightly and said, "They are all longevity-extending races. I'll get them to treat their blood essence as soon as possible. However, there are a few races that appear less frequently. They are still neutral races. I'll arrange for people to collect them." "Thank you, Manor Head." Su Yu thanked him and said, "Manor Head, I heard that the Great Xia Manor is preparing to recruit some celestial and demon students next semester." Zhu Tiandao couldn't help but laugh. "You even know about this?" "I also just received the news that Xiao Er Xia only revealed some information. Not only the celestial and demon races, but the Xia family, including the 10,000 heavenly saints, is saying that they can make some concessions at this time and temporarily withdraw some troops. The heavenly battlefield will turn into a defensive battlefield. Of course, this is not all. I heard that the Xia family intends to give away a few small worlds that they conquered previously in order to reduce the interference from the outside world." Su Yu frowned and said, "Is the Xia family really going to do this? I can't judge this." Zhu Tiandao shook his head and said, "But if the Xia family does this, it will definitely cause many people to be dissatisfied. Xia Long will definitely be criticized for his martial arts attainment. Of course, if the Xia family really insisted, the probability of success would not be low. Unless all the invincible experts clearly expressed their support for Xia Long's martial arts attainment and went all out, otherwise, if the Xia family insisted, then everyone could only tacitly agree. They even tacitly agreed to let a wolf into the house." Su Yu was dissatisfied. Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, "It can't be considered that. When 2 armies fight, they don't kill envoys. These students can be seen as envoys when they communicate. Of course, the various manors will definitely put some restrictions on it. It's impossible to say that they will let some of the other party's experts enter the border. Zhu Tiandao continued, however, if the Xia family does this, they must be careful that problems will appear within their borders first. You know the people of the Great Xia Manor. They hate all races. Now, even their greatest enemy, the gods and devils, can enter the border. I think that if the Great Xia Manor does this, something will happen sooner or later. Su Yu nodded, he gritted his teeth and said, I am from the Great Xia family. I know the situation. The Great Xia family takes pride in joining the army and taking pride in killing their enemies. They conquer the heavens. It is not scary to die, but it is shameful to run away from the army. The Xia family is doing this to become a deserter. The Xia family's prestige will definitely plummet. Zhu Tiandao sighed, a plummet, perhaps only then will the gods and devils be convinced. If your Xia family is still as majestic as ever, they would not dare to prove Xia Long's Dao. But if it were to plummet, perhaps they would dare. The Xia family has become the benchmark for the peace-seeking faction and even the surrender faction. Look, the iron-blooded Xia family has already compromised. The gods and demons are here to help us. We can completely coexist peacefully. This is the most terrifying thing. Sigh. Su Yu frowned and said, then why can't Invincible express his support for the Xia family? It's not a matter of expressing his stance. Zhu Tiandao shook his head, it's now. It's obvious that many people want to use Xiaolongu as a target. Let me ask you, if the Zhou family is going to prove their Dao, will the great Zhou king protect his descendants or Xiaolongu? The Qin family has proven their Dao in Qin town. Does the great Qin king protect Qin town or Xiaolongu? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1285. 1285 Chapter 302, Eternal Notoriety, Monthly Subscription, 3. How does the descendant of the great Han King choose to attain Dao? Human nature is sometimes selfish. There's nothing wrong with that. If Xia Longwu were to exchange for a few people to attain Dao successfully, or his own descendant, what choice would you make? We can't say that everyone is cold-blooded, but no matter which angle we look at it from, we can't give up on our own descendants to ensure Xia Longwu's success. Then why don't we both attain the Dao? Before Su Yu could finish his sentence, Zhu Tiandao said speechlessly, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If it were me, I would usually attain the Dao, but I would only have a slim chance of surviving. If Xia Longwu attained the Dao, I would follow. Life and death would be split equally. Tell me, when do you think I can attain the Dao? Su Yu felt some sympathy for Xia Longwu for no reason. He felt some sorrow for Xia Longwu. Could it be that he could blame those invincible people? He asked himself, between protecting Xia Longwu or protecting his own descendants, what about Su Yu? If his father also verified that he had the ability to protect someone, then who would he protect? Of course, it would be his father. Even if he admired Xia Longwu very much. This did not prevent him from making that choice. Similarly, the other unrivaled experts would also make the same choice. Unrivaled experts were not heartless. Family members were still family members. After all, outsiders were outsiders. Su Yu thought for a moment before asking, since everyone is counting on Manor Head Xia to be the target, then what is the Great Zhou residence doing in the Great Xia residence with the single divine language faction? Aren't they afraid that Manor Head Xia will give up? Listening to the truth or lies? Zhu Tiandao laughed, which one do you want to hear? The truth. Zhu Tiandao said faintly, since the Xia clan can give in, why can't the Zhou clan? Using the single divine text to suppress the multiple divine texts as the price to seek some benefits is very normal. Why did the 8 great families acquiesce? Do you really think that the 8 great families are fools? The gods and devils are afraid of the multiple divine texts. Are they blind and unable to see? Do they really believe it? But if the gods and devils promised to suppress the multiple divine texts and give your family a few more invincible ones, what choice would you make? Su Yu's heart shook violently. Zhu Tiandao said coldly, as the saying goes, those who achieve great things do not care about small details. How many people from the multiple divine languages? At the price of suppressing Lu Wenyan and the others, 3 to 5 more invincible ones, what would you choose? Su Yu was speechless for a long time. He thought he had seen through everything. Today proved that he had not seen through anything. If the single divine language suppressed the multiple divine languages, perhaps there was a deeper deal. Yes, a deal. Zhu Tiandao walked down the high platform and stood in front of Su Yu. He looked at him, he stared at him. Su Yu, I'll say what I said today, but I won't admit it outside this door. Let me ask you. At the price of Lu Wenyan, Hong Tan, and the others being suppressed, in the end, the human race will have 5 more invincible realms. Do you think this deal is worth it? Don't think in terms of the multi-divine language faction, but the entire human realm. Do you think it's worth it? Su Yu's mouth was dry and he did not say a word. Doesn't everyone know that the polytheistic culture is very important? Yes. But some people are thinking that we have a few more invincible ones, and then we turn hostile and support the polytheistic culture. Do you think it's worth it? Are the Yuan family and the Zhou family traitors? In my opinion, no. They have their own plans and schemes. What they are thinking is that Lu Wenyan and the others are too weak. Just suppress them. No one killed them, just suppress them. With the price of a few geniuses being suppressed, in exchange for a few truly invincible ones, is it worth it? The one who killed Lu Wenyan was actually that one person in the dark. Perhaps they really had a personal grudge. The other invincibility people just chose to sit on the sidelines. He stared at Su Yu. Su Yu, you're from the multi-god literature department, so you hate this. However, if you're not, do you think it's appropriate to exchange a few outdated geniuses for a few more invincible humans? Take me for example. 9 commoners died previously, so I'm relieved. You, Su Yu, are fine. Do you think that's a good idea? However, in my eyes, your value is far greater than those 9 commoners. Therefore, I think that you can't die. They can. Tell me, do you think that I, Zhu Tiandao, am cold-blooded and realistic, or have I betrayed the people of Daming Prefecture? Su Yu's throat was dry. After a long while, he said, what you mean is, actually, everyone knows. However, everyone has tacitly agreed to the suppression of the single divine literature department. It is not purely a factional dispute, nor is it because they are worried that we will grow and start a war, but, they are seeking to verify the Tao. You can say that. Zhu Tiandao said calmly, the great Han King and the others are not blind. Even my father is not blind, but why didn't he say anything before? Lu Wenyan had been in seclusion in the southern Yuan for decades, and Hong Tan was almost suppressed to the point of extermination. Why didn't anyone stand up and say anything? Because, the value of the additional divine runes is not enough. It's just the reality. Even for someone like the 5th generation, even if he kills 1 invincible, can he kill 5 invincible? Su Yu gritted his teeth and said, I understand. This time, I understand. Everyone is tacitly agreeing to this result. The only one who really fights is actually the Xia family, right? But now, the Xia family can't hold on anymore and wants to compromise, right? Zhu Tiandao nodded, that might be the case. Zhu Tiandao said calmly, there are some things and some words that I couldn't have said originally, but after thinking about it, it's better to say them. I'll let you understand that there are some things that are more complicated than you expected. Using the loss of the many divine runes to exchange for a few more undefeatable Daos and a few less undefeatable Daos in the future, no matter how you look at it, it's all worth it. As for the Xia family, they didn't compromise and insisted. That's because the Many Divine Runes department was created by the Xia family.